Cool Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host. The revolution in Hollywood is shook up. They trying to buy the P Diddy tape. Before we get into that, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button, share, subscribe. Let everybody know Cult Figure is live. The hardest working revolutionary in the business is back for a second live today. Let's dive into this P Diddy update. What's going on with this pervert?
Not only are the Diddy celebrity freak-off tapes real, they are currently being shopped around Hollywood for higher profile people that are featured in them to potentially buy and block their release. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor. This is a disturbing update in the case, and the case is getting crazier and crazier. New law firm says they're repping more than 50 alleged victims. Now I'm hearing more. There's apparently a press conference that's going to drop tomorrow. A lot of new victims have stepped up, and we're going to cover them all. But I first wanted to focus on this bombshell revelation from one of the lawyers repping this latest accuser. She was here on News Nation, Ariel Mitchell-Kidd, repping one of the latest accusers. And I want you to hear what she has to say, because this is shocking.
I was recently contacted by someone who wanted me to essentially represent them in the sale of one of the Diddy tapes. So, which I declined that because...
Wait a minute. Say that again. Say that again. Back up. You're saying that there's tapes and they're being shopped?
Yes, there have been people already shopping.
We've heard about the tapes, but
yes.
The shopping thing is...
Yes, there already have been tapes leaking around Hollywood, being shopped around to individuals in Hollywood. But one particular person contacted me to shop a particular video they were in possession of, and to contact the person who was in the video to see if they were interested in purchasing the video before it became a public knowledge.
I've heard this before. So like a catch and kill.
Catch and kill, correct.
Wow. Can you, and I guess you can't reveal the person who is on
No, I can't explain who the person was, but Mr.
High profile?
Mr. Combs was in the tape, and this other person is, I would venture to say, more high profile than Mr. Combs.
Really?
More high profile than Mr. Combs.
Really? And you've seen it?
I've seen stills of the video.
Okay.
So
you can verify
that it exists, that it's real, that the other person in the video is very visible. It's no question if it's that person in the video. And I can tell the video is pornographic in nature.
Oh my. All right. So we know that he videotaped a lot of activities at his home, did he? And it sounds like there was probably a lot of hidden cameras as well. Is that what is being talked about?
Yes. This was actually in his Atlanta home, at a home he had in Atlanta at one point. And it does seem that the person isn't like looking into the video. So it's, to me, doesn't seem like that person knows they're being videotaped. It doesn't seem like they're active participant in the videotaping, like they're being surreptitiously recorded it.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Wow. What? Who's the higher profile individual? Now, again, this is the lawyer speaking. I guess she could be lying. Let's be fair. Let's call it out for what it is. But I don't know about you guys. I kind of buy it. We've seen a lot of silence from a lot of these celebrities. Experts are saying silence is the best option as this probe continues and all the unwanted scrutiny. And we're talking a lot of people who have been faced, Ashton Kutcher, who we reported on, Bieber, who we've reported on. I'm going to create a playlist at the end of this so you can go find all these updates. So stay tuned, or I'll put it up an iCard right here. If you missed some of our coverage specifically, I'll make sure you have a Diddygate update there so you can catch them if you missed them. But this is crazy. Now, look, the problem with this is there's now a lot of speculation as to, well, who could it be? Who is the celebrity?
Who could it be, y'all?
We talked about Leonardo.
Who could it be, y'all? Somebody bigger than Diddy is on the tape. We know he got DiCaprio. We know that he got Kushner, but they didn't say if he was black or white, so they just left it like he's a bigger celebrity than Diddy. Diddy done recorded this individual. And the tape, this lawyer's saying they seen it. This guy Hollywood shook right now.
Leonardo DiCaprio last week. In fact, we're going to have Dale Wheatley back on now, talk to him since these allegations, because our video exclusive revealing the history of Leonardo DiCaprio, which he's kept very private, has gone super viral. And we're going to have Dale back and talk more about it and those Diddy accusations. Does Dale feel like it makes sense that there's a connection to Diddy? Stay tuned. You're not going to miss that update, so hit that subscribe. But we have no proof of this. We have no proof that Diddy was involved. Sure, he was at some of these parties, but a lot of these people have been at parties. But here's the image of him in a white party. A lot of these celebrities were at these parties. It doesn't mean they stayed after hours and partook in any illegal activities. Let's be clear. There's no allegation accusing Leonardo of that. But many people are now speculating, well, they were party guys, and this was his number one attendee. So that leaves a lot of people speculative. Now, there's also a lot of memes and things going around. I saw this one. I prefer not to, this is LeBron James, prefer not to speak on this matter until I know how much information becomes public knowledge, when a reporter asked how many Diddy parties, freak-offs he had attended. Now, I can't find this anywhere. This quote is not attributed to him. I don't believe it's so. There are several meme pictures that just, it's why I hate Twitter. People just make a fake image on Twitter, say it's a graphic or a quote by Morgan Freeman, and everyone just buys it. You got to go actually find the attribute, where it came from, an actual accredited source.
He got all of them. They idolized him when they didn't have money and he was the big fish. They didn't have mansions. He invited them to his mansions, his party. It's real easy to see Diddy like, man, go up there in that room, man. You want them Kardashian, Kim Kardashian up there waiting on you, man. And he going up there thinking he's sneaking off Diddy recording them, man. Diddy got all of them NBA superstars. I already told you that.
To confirm it was said. I don't think he said this, but LeBron is now being speculated as now he's a higher profile individual. I would say he and Leo are definitely higher profile individuals than Diddy. Now, I don't believe that quote's real, but LeBron has hit up several Diddy parties. He has been there. In fact, here he is.
Everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party. So
yeah, that's what's up. Yeah.
Hey, everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party. So
yeah, that's just
with like kids behind, man. It's just, it's a problem. It is so bad. So bad now. Now, again, I got to be objective, right? Fair. Diddy threw a lot of parties that didn't resort into the craziness, right? He would go to other areas, other parts of the house. So we do have to be careful in our speculation, because I know we all want to say Hollywood's disgusting and they're all complicit. And sure, I'm sure a lot of them are. To be fair, Hollywood is pretty sketchy. At the same time, not everybody partook. A lot of people probably showed up for the first party, got a little drunk. You're allowed to get drunk at parties. You're allowed to have bikini girls at parties. That's not illegal, right? What's illegal is what happened afterwards with the workers, etc. The illegal filming, all that stuff is when things got, problematic. Now, the problem is, I think I can show some of this. I'll show it very quickly as I scroll through. So but yeah, out of control. NBA players, terrified people of certain age. A lot of people are coming forward. This is a singer who hung out with Diddy in the 90s as a teen, further lifted the lid on the infamous parties after she left terrified and trying to escape. Artist Good Frida says she first met the disgraced star at an autograph signing in Toronto in 1999. And an exclusive interview with the U.S. Sun, she said she sang for Combs, then Puff Daddy, then Diddy, before being invited to join a substance-fueled X party in his high five-star hotel with a girlfriend. She claims she told the rapper and security that she was of, that. And which is, I guess, allowed in Canada, although the drinking age still is 19. She said they didn't care about that and invited them to join the adults who are openly, doing activities. And they had a second VIP room, freak-off room, guarded by security. So this is what I'm hearing from my own sources. There's levels. There are tiers to the party. So he sort of tests you out, brings you the big one. You're happy. How much did you drink? How are you feeling? And then you move on to the second party where things are definitely making out. Things are happening. And then there's even a third tier of a party where it's like, if you're in there, you shouldn't be in there. Room 2 is already questionable enough. Room 3 is where it really takes a turn. So it does seem like that's what was happening. And this indictment obviously forced facing these freak-off parties. They're really looking into that as the problem and what happened at those parties. And now more and more people coming forward to reveal. But she says none of the artists I saw were engaged in activities, but there were a lot of NBA players and a lot of executives and whatnot with the girls. They were having relations in chairs and corners and bathrooms, anywhere they could. She ran out of the hotel after being told to wait for access to the second freak-off party. There were a lot of substances a lot of substances. People were just picking them up and taking them, offering me different things. I was saying no. There were different sections and drink areas. There was no bartender. You could make your own drinks, or you could have someone pour it for you. There were more men than women. Everyone was drinking, doing substances. I wanted to drink and have a good time like my friend and the other girls, but I was too paranoid and needed to stay alert just in case I had to fight off anybody. She then initially felt uneasy after meeting Combs, who complimented her eyes and skin and encouraged her to ditch her friend, who later got lost in the crowd. At the signing, she said she and her friend got theirs first. Combs was 2 hours late, and that's when the night took a turn. My friend asked him what hotel he was staying at, and he was like, actually, I'm having a party. You girls should come. I told him, we don't have our IDs. Where that? He said, I don't check IDs at my party. He then said he's going to give you details. He pointed to one of the security guards. He gave us details. And so the others could get their autographs. Oh, man. Just look, there's so many details. It's hard to read them all. We are going to do our best to cover it as more and more comes in. But I wanted to focus on this, particularly this accusation coming in from this lawyer. Who is this powerful figure? There must be so many people shaking in their boots who were at these parties who thought, no one's ever going to know. I'm just at a Diddy party. And what did they do beyond that? Because he was keeping blackmail material. He was filming things. It's all going to come out, it seems. So what is someone in this situation supposed to do? I would come clean. Sooner you do that, the better it's going to be for everybody else. If you are exposed without the information coming and you're playing dumb, I think that's going to be even worse for you. So it's kind of a roulette. PR experts saying silence is the best options. Keep staying silent until you're actually accused of something. What do you think? I want to hear your thoughts. And who do you think this high profile person is? Again, no proof that it's the.
So what we have is a high profile person. The lawyers say he's on tape doing intimate things with P Diddy, and they're trying to sell. Somebody's trying to sell the tape. Okay, somebody's trying to sell the tape. What happened? Oh, there we go.
Paid or compensated well enough.
1,000 of them back there to sell. They don't just want money. They want no automation in the port approval.
To an agreement, like months go by. Yeah.
By something that the lady said at the beginning of her video. She said, don't go buy a bottle of toilet paper. People were thinking flows. Me, you at the self-checkout, there's a road.
TikTok, and we are about to deep dive this and all the crazy information that I found that might just connect her passing to Diddy. It was reported that Brittany Murphy passed away due to pneumonia, the same way as Kim Porter, even though her father did his own toxicology report on Brittany Murphy after her autopsy, and he said that he found toxic metals in her body.
Today, new shocking allegations coming from her father, who says she was poisoned. And Murphy's father, Angelo Bertolotti, and family friend Julia Davis are joining us now from Los Angeles. To the both of you, thank you so much. I know this is difficult. I'm sorry for your loss. We appreciate you being with us because this is really shocking to a lot of people, hearing that you believe that she was poisoned. Mr. Bertolotti, why do you believe that? Why do you think that she was poisoned?
Well, it's very suspicious, and I read the reports on the toxicology reports, and everything sounds very, very, very more or less suspicious. And I feel she was poisoned. There's no question about that. And I feel she was a murderer.
Julia, was there something specific in those reports that he's talking about that leads you to believe that it was poison and not natural causes? Yes, from the very beginning, AJ always believed that there was something very odd about Brittany's passing, and then reviewing autopsy reports, we could see that there were multiple symptoms that would usually go with poisoning, and then the test results confirmed that, where the lab found 10 heavy metals in very high quantities. So we do believe that it was poisoning, and we would like to have it properly investigated, since the coroner never tested for poisons already.
Now, the crazy thing is that Kim Porter and Brittany Murphy's coroner was the same person named Ed Winters, who actually passed away before Kim Porter's second autopsy report was finished. Ed Winters worked on people like Paul Walker, Tom Petty, Brittany Murphy, and Michael Jackson. And then I found out even something more crazy. So do you guys remember Harley Pasternak, the trainer that was CIA that Kanye talked about trying to off him and other celebrities like Aaron Carter?
Harley Pasternak followed me to the hotel. Here, Aaron Carter, and now they acting like they won't clear the Backstreet Boys sample. You get what I'm saying? Harley Pasternak, Pusha, your trainer. Harley Pasternak, Jay-Z.
Harley Pasternak worked with Brittany Murphy before she passed away. Harley Pasternak claimed that Brittany Murphy's husband hired him to work with Brittany, but when she came into his gym, he was sure that she was under the influence of something. Yeah, right. And what makes everything even worse is the fact that Brittany Murphy dated Ashton Kutcher around the same time that he was best friends with Diddy. And it's been alleged for years that before Brittany Murphy passed away, she was getting ready to expose SA that was happening in Hollywood. And we know even though Ashton Kutcher was friends with Diddy, he worked at an organization for these SA child and women victims. That was up until 2023, until Ashton Kutcher decided to resign from Thorne because he sent a letter in support of Danny Masterson, basically discrediting all of his victims and saying how much
something gonna happen to Ashton Kutcher. They're gonna say he just feels so bad about all of this and he gonna wind up off of himself because he know a lot too. He know a whole lot because he was the golden boy of Hollywood. They done abused Ashton Kutcher so much. That's serious business. They tossed him around way for Justin Bieber.
Much of a great guy he was. So a man for years that sat on a board trying to help women and children, that was also friends with another and also friends with someone like Diddy, was dating Brittany Murphy, and she was allegedly getting ready to expose the industry in some things that she knew. And Harley Pasternak just so happened to be around her right before she passed away. Nah. All of this is absolutely crazy.
It's over. It's over. If this lawyer is correct and these claims that she just made is true, it's game over.
It's true.
Y'all got to check this out.
I just hired a local counsel in California. We will be filing that lawsuit within the week.
She seen the tweet.
I also was just recently contacted by someone who wanted me to essentially represent them in the sale of one of the Diddy tapes. So, which I declined that because,
wait a minute, say that again, back up. You're saying that there's tapes and they're being shot?
Yes, there have been people already shot.
We've heard about the tapes.
Yeah.
Now, what they saying is absolutely legal. It's called catch and capture, or capture and kill. The politicians do it all the time. When you're running for office, you put people out there to buy stories, negative stories about you. You pay for it, and then you kill the story yourself. That is legal. So they got every legal right to go to this lawyer and say, hey, I got this tape with Diddy and this high-profile celebrity that's bigger than him on tape engaging in sexual activities, and I want to sell it.
Yes, there already have been tapes leaking around Hollywood, being shopped around to individuals in Hollywood. But one particular person contacted me to shop a particular video they were in possession of, and to contact the person who was in the video to see if they were interested in purchasing the video before it became public knowledge.
I've heard this before, so like a catch and
correct.
Wow, can you, and I guess you can't reveal the person who is on.
No, I can't explain who the person was, but Mr. Combs was in the tape, and this other person is, I would venture to say, more high profile than Mr. Combs.
Really?
Crazy.
And you've seen it?
Bigger than
I've seen stills of the video.
Okay.
You can verify that it exists,
Think
that
about
it's
that.
real, that
Really a billionaire and a big fish. She's saying it's a person on this tape that's way bigger than him. It's not that many people bigger than Diddy in the goddamn game. We're gonna get it's a hand list of individuals, man. Might be 2, might be 10, white or black. She was purposely didn't say black because she said black. That was gonna narrow it down quickly.
other person in the video, it's very visible. It's no question if it's that person in the video. And I can tell the video was
All right, so you guys just heard all of that. Now, as it pertains to the passing of Brittany Murphy, I've always been suspicious about her passing. Something just didn't sit right with me. And the fact that she passed away the same way, or at least the findings of her passing away, or the overall conclusion was the fact that she passed away from pneumonia. And also when you couple that with the toxicology report, and they said that they found toxic metals within her body. I believe it was Sloan Bella that said that she pictured Kim Porter having some type of toxin metals within her nasal spray. And so those two kind of match up, right? And when you take into account that Ed Winter was the coroner for both individuals, but he did pass away before the second autopsy was done with Kim Porter, it just something just doesn't smell right about this situation. And it could have some connections to Diddy. But if she was going to write a book, if Brittany was going to write a book about Hollywood and exposing Hollywood, anyone could be responsible for her passing, even Ashton Kutcher, even though he's been cleared, but they may want to look back at him, to be honest, because if she was dating him and she probably knew some things about him and going to these Diddy parties and a lot of things, this woman probably had a lot of information. So no telling who wanted her gone, but it's not above the realm of possibility that Diddy could have had his hands in it too, right? We can't put nothing past that man. And also when you take it to a
Ashton Kutcher over there pillow talking about him and Diddy flings. Diddy ain't having that.
Count that Harley Pasternak became Britney's trainer / mentor, and he was around her in her final days. This is the same person that threatened Kanye. And Kanye, listen, we know that he's off his rocker sometimes, but this man be speaking a lot of truth about some of these individuals out there in Hollywood. And so I think it's fair to say that we can zoom the lenses on him as well. Now, as far as the lawyer Ariel Mitchell Kidd, who is representing a few clients that came forward and filed lawsuits against Diddy for SA, basically she's saying that she came across some video still shots of this prominent celebrity that has more status than Diddy, and the fact that they were in that particular video, even though she said that she only saw the still shots, being intimate with one another. And I'm trying to figure out who could it be. Now, based off of the information that I've been gathering for quite some time that I've yet to put out, something just tells me that it has something to do with Obama, right? I could be wrong. I could be terribly wrong. But I want to know who you guys think that was on that tape with Diddy being intimate with him. Drop down below and let a brother know.
A resurfaced Diddy tweet from Ellen has left us all stunned as the probe against Sean Diddy Combs goes global. Welcome to Popcorn Planet and our Diddygate coverage. I'm Andy Signor with some updates for you, including this tweet that has gone re-viral. And it's gross, guys. I don't know what the heck Ellen was thinking as this tweet has gone all over and it's still up. I was like, is this tweet real? And apparently it is. This is from November 2016. Happy birthday, P Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, or as I call him, Cuddle McSnuggle Stuff. You don't need to know why. I mean, my goodness, why wouldn't you have deleted that? The fact that she just forgot, didn't go back and check. Whoo, this is just a really bad look. And that's her account, just in case. I wanted to make sure. Yep, that's the one. That is the Ellen account. And she's calling him Cuddle McSnuggle Stuff. Was Ellen getting these girls at the party too? Is that what was going on? This is shocking. Meanwhile, new clips are also resurfacing where Ellen's saying, you got to come to the party, Diddy, because once you get there, the party really starts. This is a February 2018 clip. Her love for Diddy was ongoing. She was talking to him, and during the interview, she poked fun at Combs for being late to the show and questioned if he'd repeat the behavior at the upcoming party she was throwing. Are you going to be early to my party? Yes, I am. No, Combs admitted. You know, I have to arrive fashionably late, the record exec said. DeGeneres told Combs, not too late, though, please. What time would you like me there? Combs asked. I'll tell you later, but not too late. Because, you know, once you get there, the party really starts.
See, and I seen one video, I can't find it. I might come up with it by tomorrow, where they're talking about what people not paying attention to is the missing children and the missing trafficked individuals, you know, and like Ellen's so excited because she one of the individuals who love the AD chrome. I can't say the full word, but the stuff they get from the terrified kids. You see, it's another thing that P Diddy know a lot about. It's more what's going on than just these freak offs. It's a lot of nefarious BS was going on with also with missing kids.
Yeah, Combs replied, nodding in agreement. You know what I'm saying, Ellen says. I got you, Combs said, adding, I promise you, I'm not going to let you down on this big one, for real. DeGeneres then grabs Combs' pinky on his left and told it, your feet are going to have blisters. You're going to be dancing so hard. I can't wait, DeGeneres replied, which made Combs laugh. Ha 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 ha! Yeah, they're going to be dancing real hard. Okay, Cuddle McSnuggle stuff. I mean, what the heck's happening here? You can feel the tension in the conversation. One person wrote, his whole demeanor and tone was different when he told her, I promise I'm not going to let you down, the commenter read. This is just strange. Now, look, it doesn't mean anything happened. Let's be clear. But Ellen, she's not had the best reputation of late. Not being very nice to her staffers, constantly playing the victim of things. It wouldn't surprise me if she was out there doing crazy stuff herself. Now, criminal stuff, I'm not going to go that far, but being mean to people and enjoying sort of standing over them, and that's kind of what she does. Ellen's whole game of games was just laughing at people hurting themselves, putting themselves in crazy situations. The way she's constantly just enjoying people getting scared. I mean, I like a good scare too, to be fair, but there's just a meanness to her beyond the way she treated her staff and just how she loves watching people, you know, just get theirs. And so it's an interesting connection that these two would be aligned like that. So I don't know what the heck she was trying to say with this, but this is gross. This does not hold up well. She has some splaining to do. Meanwhile, as we deal with whatever the heck that is with Ellen, the case against Diddy is now going global. The probe team against him is launching a search in the UK for victims as they jet in from the US. He's been charged with, obviously as he knows, but US investigators have flown to London. I was just down there over concerns that Diddy may have went against people there as well. British detectives joined the New York team after they arrived as part of their probe into the hip hop star. He's been charged with a lot of things, as we know. Whenever he went, the team are now following. Outside the States, he enjoyed no more than the UK. That's where he went the most, apparently. And so now, given the huge amount of time he spent in London, there are concerns that the alleged offending was not confined to American shores. Prosecutors are imploring anyone in the UK who may have information that they feel could help the investigation get in touch. Now, this is key because in order for a lot of cars on the road, that term for it, especially if it's international, global lines, that changes the game even more, where Diddy's even more effed. And as we spoke to, one of the people who was involved in the Diddy parties, a madame, if you will, we had her on exclusively. We need to bring her back after all this. We'll have her back. But as she spoke up, like she was from other countries, they clearly brought in other people from other countries. So it's not a surprise. Prosecutor Damian Williams has helped put Maxwell behind bars for 20 years, etc. The New York billionaire is one of the world's richest, most powerful musicians and has made regular trips to Britain since rocketing to fame with I'll Be Missing You. He was known as Puff Daddy. He attended Sir Elton John's white tie and tiara ball. Combs was pictured with stars including Lady Victoria Hervey, who would join her on his yacht at Cannes and the MTV Awards in Barcelona years later. He was courted by high society, including the royals. 2007, he famously performed the concert for Diana at Wembley before being pictured with William and Harry backstage. That's right. Same year, he was pictured leaving an event attended by David and Victoria Beckham. Oh, and there he is with Russell Brand. We know how he likes to party. I mean, shocking to see. Now, Russell Brand has completely tried to redo his whole thing. He's out there doing baptisms in his tighty whities. This man is completely trying to cover up his tracks from his past because regardless, look, I've heard some things from people I trust, and I think he's absolutely doing everything he can to distance himself, Russell Brand, etc., from his past, which was very sexual, very substance fueled. I don't see how he can remember it all, to be honest. But that's a sole separate case. He's fighting his own fight to each their own. But seeing these two together, they go get him to the Greek duo, it's a bad look for me. It's not a good look. This does not help Russell Brand's case being pictured out there with Diddy. He made visits between 2008 2010 while filming Get on the Greek. He appeared in a supporting role in the film alongside top billed stars Russell Brand, Jonah Hill, while promoting the comedy. Brand said of Combs, he looked after me. He took me on an enforced holiday to Vegas. Brand's like the biggest partier there is. Comedian Brand, who's himself been, had claims surfaced last year, added he's a very intense man because I think he comes from nothing and now he's very, very powerful. People that do stuff like that, they're intense. Now, I like him, but he's very influential. Say that you don't want to do something with Diddy and Diddy does not want you to do it. It's really hard not to do that thing. You still do it because you think, don't upset him. This is Russell Brand saying this. Imagine that. Russell Brand, of all people, like, you can't say no to Diddy. This is crazy. But yeah, he's Combs visited London and returned 3 months later to launch his fashion brand, Sean John, while at the event. He said, I've always enjoyed traveling throughout Europe and spent much of my vacation here in London. Truly feels like a second home to me. My God, how many homes did this guy actually have? A lot of homes, it seems. A lot of homes. So yes, they are flying out there looking for possible British victims. This makes this even more intense. It's bringing it to a global scale. I'm not surprised. And yes, Harry and William have been there at these white parties, the resurfaced interviews. The images are there. Now, they were young. Kanye's there. A lot of people were there. Just because you're photographed with them doesn't mean you're involved. But again, anybody who's been snapped with Diddy is now getting worried. Do I think Harry was really doing things behind the scenes? Like, I think a lot of things about Harry. I don't think so. I think they were just there hanging with the rappers, trying to look cool, personally. But who knows anymore, man? That's how crazy this is all getting. To learn that they're actually trying to sell these tapes in Hollywood to catch and kill them, to block their release. If you missed that story, what are you waiting for? Watch it next. I'm going to play it right here. Before we do, make sure you're subscribed, folks. Hit that bell for all alerts. We're getting so close.
We got a doozy for y'all today, man. We got a doozy for y'all today, bro. One Allison Leilani Carter. Some of y'all may know the name. A lot of y'all may not, bro. But she's recently gone viral for dropping some bombshell details in regards to the whole Diddy debacle, but mainly the industry, bro. She claims to have been a victim. She claims to have been a trafficked victim ever since she was a child. And yeah, she's currently trending in regards to videos she's dropped years ago, right? She's been calling out Diddy in the industry for a little bit, right? But she dropped some new videos that have pretty much highlighted what she's been reiterating, or that she dropped some recent videos that are reiterating what she's been saying for a few years now, man. But what she's saying is very graphic in nature, man. So viewer discretion is advised. I'll read y'all a couple of lines from an affidavit of truth that she put out in regards to her own experiences being victimized by Diddy, Birdman, Young Jock, and Denzel Washington. And we just getting started, man. Before we tap in, though, man, Peter Drip, shop, StevieKnight.com, man. Link for that, description box below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, like the video, man. And yeah, so first we'll get into this affidavit, bro. Let me read it. March 27, 2024 applies to, or in regards to one Brian Christopher Williams, aka Birdman, aka Baby, Denzel Hayes Washington Jr., Sean Love Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P Diddy, aka Diddy, and Giselle Amon Robinson, aka Young Jock. And this describes an incident at the Playboy. Now, Now, Denzel Washington name do not freaking surprise me. And why do I say that? Well, anybody who know the story of Jay-Z and Dame Dash breakup, it's a particular story that people don't talk about a lot, but I'll never forget it. It's when Jay-Z made Cameron the president. When Dame Dash made Cameron the president, Jay-Z was on a vacation. Well, who was he on a vacation with? With Denzel Washington. I believe this one. See, Denzel Washington is a high-ranking boule, Mason, whatever you want to call it. And that's when they was bringing Jay-Z in. But they wanted to end to Damon Dash. You see? And they say Denzel took Jay-Z on a little trip, little vacation. But who knows the hanky-panky that also went on to see if he was ready to move up.
Boy Mansion, here in Simi Valley on or around 2009, 2010, while she was a foster
clean image.
Allison Leilani Carter, previously known as Outlaw, test under oath the following account of mine and all my alter parts, personal experiences to be true and accurate to the best of our knowledge regarding the Playboy Mansion after party attended by Birdman, Denzel, Diddy, and Young Jock. My birthday is February 15th, 94. Damn, that's my father's birthday. And this party was on or around. There's only a few snapshots of the affidavit here. She hasn't released the whole thing. Supposedly, she released this information herself. So, trying to find a full document, she has it within her possession, man. So, anyway, party favors means that kids are literally set on the table and had to wait for people to come choose them for relations. Once they were done having relations, the kids were placed back on the party favor table, and someone else could then come and pick them out from the table and repeat the process. I had to have relations with so many people that night, I cannot remember them all, and some of the other alters hold those memories. Partygoers went into a frenzy / group setting mindset. Once the DJ started the music and turned on the flashing lights, there were fetishes happening everywhere, and they kind of separated them into areas where specific fetishes was happening. For instance, the fetish of having sex in a red liquid was in one area, while having sex with four-legged beings was in another area. People were just in a crazed and kind of frenzy. When the music started, I was sitting on a party favorite table. The main room was big like a ballroom. There were outlying doors around the edges of the room. Some of the doors were shut, but you could still see the food sex table, the party favorite table, and many other things. There were different types of parties happening in different areas of the house. I had to sit on the party favorite table and wait to be chosen, the way someone would choose a gift bag off the table at a birthday party. Two guys took me off the table and they brought me. All right, she bouncing around in this, and was part of the Kings of Comedy. He also wore was a part of the Kings of Comedy. He also wore a gold chain. He was complaining that he didn't hour set, but there was no one to smash backstage. This comedian broke the no backdoor relations rule and had backdoor relations with me anyway and just laughed. I screamed for my handler / pimp. Everyone was laughing and I ended up getting in trouble. I was then told to have relations on the table with a girl who was my age. Then they brought in donkeys and burros and we had to have relations with them too. There were several girls that had to have relations with animals while everyone watched. Another girl and I ended up throwing up afterward and they rubbed our faces in it as punishment. Yeah, man. So that's just from her affidavit she wrote in regards to some case. It says, state of California, subscribed here on 25th of April, 2024. Allison Leilani Carter. I mean, all this shit could be doctor, bro, but like I say, she's been talking about this stuff for a little bit now, man. I'm going to show y'all some more pretty graphic testimony, at least, man. This is her right here. She dropped this interview a few days ago. I ain't gonna play the whole thing. It's about 30 minutes long, bro. But this definitely gives you a synopsis of what's going on. Latest update from Allie Carter, human trafficking survivor.
I never thought that we would see the day where Diddy would get arrested. And I told you guys in the Maria Z interview in 2021 that no one tells on Diddy. P Diddy. All right? Just the same way nobody tells on Denzel Washington. People don't usually talk and stop and think about the children victims that are going through things right now as we speak, and the ones who suffered through all this bullshit. I decided to stop for a second and do some projects with projects all around, because we just said, you know what? This is our life. It's not changing. We stopped somewhere, and I've been hiding. My mom and I have been hiding. We've had our head down. We tried to back up. We even tried to tell you everything that we can, and now we have people messaging us, investigators, people that want to talk now, when now it's because it's trending. We're still not on the subject of the kids. All the adults are covering their asses. All the adults are, I left at a certain time, yet you knew children were there. You knew these parties were not okay. They weren't freak-offs. They were satanic ritual orgies. Get it straight. It wasn't just adults in these parties. The adults were responsible for the child sex slaves that were in the party. And one of those children were me. Now, those who are trying to come at us now, talking like, oh, well, now the Diddy's out, now that you can talk. For why? Because we tried to have a case with Child Protective Services. We gave them 8 months worth of evidence. 8 months worth of evidence. That didn't even do a crumb. They took that case and they hid it. If you are a survivor and if you are a real victim, be careful, because these hotline numbers that they're putting out, I don't trust them. I wouldn't do it.
They take your information to see what you have.
They're taking inventory.
And then they shut it down. They're taking inventory. So don't trust them.
That's our mama talking.
Don't trust the feds. Don't trust the judges. Fuck all y'all. You're all guilty. You're all corrupt. Any attorney that's taking money to defend Diddy, you're nasty and vile.
That's blood money.
That's blood money.
That's all blood money. You do know that, right? Whether you take money for him to shut up, you take money from him for period, that's blood money. I don't want anybody's money. You see all the people running? They're ducking and hiding because everybody knows that there is children there. But we're still not talking about the kids yet. When are we going to talk about the kids? Everybody's demanding something from the victims. Why aren't you demanding it from the news? You know he's about to turn into another Epstein, and then the list follows and it circles back into a web. So why isn't anybody demanding any information on the kids? Huh?
Where'd that supply chain come from?
Do you think that thousands of bottles worth of baby oil was for thousands of who? $65,000 worth of hot dogs and pizza was for who? Trafficking over the border was for who? Child Protective Services is your supplier. Is anybody going to talk about that? The immigrants that are coming across the border, that all those kids that they were just scooping up out of boats and out of the water, they're now coming in and they're throwing them right into the system. Aurora, Colorado, Springfield, Ohio. Where do you think all those kids are going? This ain't about an election anymore. Y'all know that, right? The election is canceled. Because everybody that you love, you don't live in the world you think you do. Everybody that you think is not guilty is about to show you who they really are. I've been screaming for years. So now, if you see me over here trying to live a normal life and tying up loose ends as justice, mind your fucking business. Nobody ever thinks about the victims. Nobody. The victims' lives get turned around when the predators' lives want to just get announced. You slap them on the wrist and you bring up every source of trauma for the victim. But nobody wants to stop and think about that. We're not talking about the victims that are still going through the shit right now with other people who are running to cover their ass and deleting their social medias. Pink, Megan Fox, Tyra Banks, Steve Harvey. Why are you running? Our PTSD lives on every damn day that they did what they did. But it's only talked about when it's trending. We got legal evidence to drop. I just don't know what's the point. Yeah, I was at a Diddy party. I was one of the party favors. But I told you, nobody tells on Diddy. Maria Z, I did that interview in 2021, 7 months ago. We made sure, I already knew that Diddy and Oprah is about to get arrested. I already knew that 7-8 months ago. We went and made sure there were sworn documents. We have them. When we went to Colorado for the A to Z event, we had a lot of legal evidence that we made sure we already had because we knew a list of people were about to get got. You can't run for that long. I'm just shocked we're finally seeing the day.
You're throwing out there that C word, that child word now, man. You know what I mean? That's a whole different ball game, bro. It's a whole different ball game, dog. You know, right here, we just talking about freak offs. You know what I'm saying? Blackmail, exploiting motherfuckers, leveraging motherfuckers. We talking about kids now. Talking about kids now, bro. And this, you know, of course, it's much bigger than Diddy. You know what I mean? But just Diddy is the one that's in the line of fire right now. Bro, we know it all goes much higher up than Diddy, bro. All these fools is all sick and demented or whatnot, man. So it's going to be very interesting to see, man. The year of the truth, bro. The year of the truth, dog. All lies will be exposed in 2024, bro. Like, that motherfucker, there's a prophet. There's video footage of her saying much more in-depth things in regards to the whole industry as well. So she talks about tunnels being up under the Playboy mansions and cities and parties all taking place underground where, you know, children are trafficked. And she talks about how children are
I heard that before about tunnels from Hugh Hefner's home leading to several elite Hollywood stars. Tunnels leading directly to their homes from Hugh Hefner's home.
Selected and what's done to the children before they're selected, and it's far too graphic in nature for me to even attempt to put on my YouTube channel, bro. Like I'm testing it with this fucking video, bro. I don't even know if I'm gonna post this shit here. You know what I mean? We're gonna have to navigate our way around this somewhere, bro. But like, this shit needs to be out, dog. This ain't just somebody leeching on to what's trending, bro. Like, her shit is timestamped. She got videos saying the exact same thing years ago, right? It's just everything's coming to light now, being corroborated now, bro, and taken serious. Similar to how Buddy has to be taken serious now that they took in custody, who brought up Diddy and Cassie in that police interrogation, talking about he was a sex slave and whatnot, where he disclosed verbatim to the T details of what took place that was corroborated in Cassie's indictment, bro. And he had that interview years before Cassie ever dropped that fucking bombshell, right? Same shit going on here. She talks about how she's been in foster care and was trafficked into sex trafficking as a child at a very young age, bro. Like, as a kid, just bouncing around all these elites. So look, y'all do with this what y'all will. I'm just here to pass the news.
Salute.
Well, Diddy's lawyers say that the freak-off parties never happened because the government didn't put that in the indictment, meaning there's no evidence of it. But celebrities sure are getting mighty nervous. There are all kinds of names being thrown around over the weekend. Pink and Usher having their ex accounts wiped, speculation rampant on who is involved in this, from names from Oprah, J-Lo. The list goes on and on. So what can we expect? Well, former prosecutor Lionel joins us from the Lionel Nation channel on YouTube. So thank you for joining us. Let's start just with that, because you and I both read the indictment and there were pictures of guns, but there was no other evidence to back up these sex parties and enslavement. So is there a chance that the government doesn't have it? Why would his lawyer say this?
Well, there's a chance that they don't have it, but this is an indictment, and I read it, and they refer to freak offs. You don't need pictures, but it's no. I mean, they're alleging this. Let me jump to the point, Natalie. Not that that's not the point, but I always think like a lawyer, and I sometimes drive people crazy when I say this. Here's my defense. If I represented Diddy, I go out there and I can say it. I'm saying, look, he's a dirtbag. I understand the guns, drugs. You may not like this, but welcome to Hollywood. Since the days of the Rat Pack, since the days of casting couches and Louis Mayer and Charlie Chaplin and Hefner. Let me tell you something right now. He never kept anybody against their will. He never threatened anybody. He had a list of people who wanted to be a part of his party and his entourage. This idea that he went out, he's not snapping anybody up. And one of the things that, believe it or not, they could have brought up in the case of that Epstein feller that nobody wants to mention his name, it never got to that point.
Yes, we do want to mention his name. Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes algorithms being what they are. Anyway, but the point is, he's what we're talking about. He very well could have said, look, what I did was wrong, but please, and I'm not suggesting I believe this, but don't suggest that I went out and grabbed people and pulled them in and threw them in the back of a white van. It doesn't work like that. There's not, and back to Diddy. Diddy could say there's not one woman, one person that ever could have just walked out the door. I don't want somebody there who doesn't want to be there.
Yes, that's exactly what his lawyer told CNN the day after he was arrested, that he interviewed everyone who was at these freak-off parties and it was all consensual. And therefore, it is limited to this group of, I guess they're calling them male prostitutes. And there was only one victim referred to in the indictment. So nobody else, so nothing else there is illegal. So why then do you think that there's more there? What's under the trapdoor?
And by the way, not only is, and you're correct about that, not only is there one victim, but there are no co-defendants. Normally, if you look at like a mafia, it's got loads of people left and right and names. It's just Diddy. I never knew he had that many nicknames. So the indictment is just a cursory kind of an introductory thing. It's very, very open-ended. They can file a superseding indictment. They can clarify. They can add more charges and that sort of things. But what's very interesting is, to me, the political part of this. This thing where others are worried about this. You know, one of my favorites is Oprah. Oprah Winfrey is one of my favorite subjects because I don't believe for a moment. Well, they tell us she's a billionaire. I'd love to find out how that's even remotely possible. Mick Jagger's not a billionaire, but she is. Okay, maybe not. Look at all the people that she's been involved with. And I mean so closely, from Bill Cosby to Russell Simmons to Diddy to Harvey Weinstein. Isn't it interesting? Don't you think if you were at the height of her, and by the way, she's not been in any way criminally or civilly or any way implicated in this whatsoever, but she's always in these pictures. Don't you think, Natalie, if you were at that level, somebody would have said to you, listen, can I talk to you? I'm in charge of your security. Don't go near him. He's charged, just like the people who never talked to Prince Andrew. Don't go, get out of here. We know all about these folks. It's as though they feel that they are impenetrable. They don't have to follow the rules. You can't get me. I'm Oprah. I'm whoever I am. I am these people. Harvey Weinstein. The fact that they did this to Harvey Weinstein after he was so close with the Clintons and Hollywood and Washington. It's amazing how they turn on each other. One more name, which I still can't believe, which nobody really cares about, Alec Baldwin. I know it's a different issue, a different case, but do you think they would have brought Ron Howard or Martin Scorsese or Spielberg to trial if there was an accident on a movie set with those people? No. Why do they turn on their own? So anyway, that's a different issue. I believe that, going back to Diddy, his lawyer should just be a little quiet. Don't tell anybody what you're going to do. Don't tell anybody what your plans are. Just say, we will address this matter in a court of competent jurisdiction, and we don't do it in a court. That's it. To make people think like, wait a minute, this is maybe they're working something out. But who are these people who all of a sudden now are freaking out? And why? Let me also suggest that it has been suggested that if you don't be surprised if you find out that maybe there were some cases of people whose names you don't know may have disappeared. You know, during these freak-offs, when you have IVs and all this type of fluid replenishment, and people can get hurt, people can overdose. We don't know really anything about that. This is very bare bones at this moment. But keep in mind what Diddy is thinking right now. He's in Brooklyn. He's sitting in this. He gets up at 6 a.m. He's in a cell. And they say, quote, suicide watch. And that's a fancy way of saying anybody who's a celebrity might be a little bit not used to this, as are most people. He realizes, I can't leave. I've been abandoned. Don't they know who I am? I'm Diddy. I'm it. And what do you think J-Lo's thinking? Don't you think they're going to be calling her and say, do you know anything about this? Not as a potential defendant, J-Lo, but as a witness, or have they already talked? Why would they issue or execute the search warrant and then wait so long to actually file charges? And what was Diddy doing in New York? It seems like he was doing it almost like he was trying to cooperate, or thought he was there to help or something. He almost seemed surprised. And for him to go from a 20, I mean, there's so much stuff that really, it's not really a legal issue, but from a practical point of view, I'm thinking, I wonder what they told him. Whose side is he on?
Yeah. And so, you know, on the personal level, I'm like, what do I care if there's a corrupt industry and they're all doing these dark deeds? But then it shows that the media that's put in front of me is a part of some sinister sex ring, and I don't know what to trust and what not to. So that's where I go into this dark, deep hole where what can you trust to watch on television or listen to the radio or anything like that. So who's innocent was getting hurt, and who is complicit? And all of these names that are thrown around over the last week that possibly either were good friends with him or associates or possibly involved, all of them seem to coalesce around getting Kamala Harris elected this weekend at a big celebrity party thrown by Oprah. So I asked myself, and maybe you have an opinion on this, what is the angle in bonding together like this around the Harris campaign at this juncture? Is there some kind of tactical advantage there?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, they're lefties and Democrats, and that's the way it goes. And I remember I saw an old, it's funny. All of Diddy's interviews are available now, and they seem so ominous. He was on with Conan. I saw one recently from, I don't know what year. You saw this one where he said, what you need alcohols, and you got to lock the door and
make it hot inside. And yes,
make it hot so they sweat. Yeah, it's like he was, and then he was on with Charlemagne the God,
Mike Tyson.
Yeah, but he was also talking about how we've got to do the Black agenda and how we've got to be a part. Listen, Kamala Harris has nothing to do with this, and that's part of that lefty thing. What's interesting, though, is let's go to a couple of people. Usher and Bieber. These were people who were kids, boys, in some cases underage. Who are these parents who let their kids, quote, be adopted by him? This is the other part of it. I don't care about consenting adults up to a point, because a consenting adult can withdraw consent and it becomes something far more serious. But this goes to show you this dark, deep, dank, dangerous world of children and stars. And the ultimate issue is, this is a federal case? I mean, with all due respect, federal? You think, because federal.
Why do you say that with such incredulousness? It shouldn't be?
To be state. California, Florida.
Okay.
Why? Normally federal courts say, nah, that's not this. It's not big enough. Diddy? Or they say he transported, this is the old Mann Act. Remember, they transported women across state borders for sexual. Why the feds involved in what amounts to this guy with some women? Again, I'm not trying to blame, but this is not, you think of international terrorism and, Epstein, a little bit different, obviously bigger, but so many questions about this. It's like, why? So what, very quickly in conclusion, what his lawyers should be doing is saying nothing, get to the bottom of this. And I'm sure he's already said, what do you want? How has he fallen out of favor? Who is it exactly that you're looking for? If you were to throw him in prison for the rest of his life, nobody cares. The industry is not cleaned up. It's one person, one victim. It's not a series of, record labels and ABC, and it's just one guy in his organization. What's this really about? Federal case of this? Harvey Weinstein and others, it was local. New York, and even the Trump case, 34 counts, that's New York State. Why would, with all that the federal government has to deal with, why Diddy? What's going on? What's really behind it? And how many people are sweating, and why? And what is it that they've made? What deal could he make? What could he say? Listen, I'll plead to something. I'll do a little bit, but because remember, you do 85% of a sentence in federal court. So if you do 10, 20 years, that's a lot. What do you want from me? Why me? You've known who I was for years. What line did I traverse? When did I go too far? You sending a message? Question. But go back to the other ones too. The young men. Now, not that I don't want to add any. This isn't homophobia, mind you, but we always talk about this has a whole nother story when you talk about children or children that may be in the recesses of the story, though not specifically mentioned in the indictment. So it's fascinating.
Yeah. Now, is there a possibility that there is a thread to pull that does link this to Epstein? We don't know that yet, but I think you and I both have sources that know there are a lot of people who do want to uphold the law, that are working as prosecutors, and Epstein is the fish that got away. So is this an opportunity to keep the fish alive and get to something bigger?
Well, there's two industries that I believe are critical in our world today: human trafficking and extortion. Now, what I want to know is simply this: Epstein is not as big as this. I know that may sound crazy to you. That may be. I'll bet you there are a smaller number of people, bigger fish, by the way, who might have been involved with this. But this is a different story. This is drunken revelry, groups of people with phones and electronic devices. The question I have with both Diddy and Epstein, who has the devices? Who has the hard drives? Who has the pictures, the photos, the information of this? Who is this? If I have a veritable who's who, do you remember the Hamptons white parties that he had? These notorious parties that Diddy had here in the Hamptons, where he is known to have said, all right, kids, time to let the kids go home. Now we're going to go crazy. Leonardo DiCaprio, a veritable who's who of people in the Hamptons. Who has what? Who has pictures? What? And finally, why? Can you please tell me, why do celebrities do this? Why would they let themselves?
No, I can't tell you that.
Well, I want an answer. It's redacted. No. But I'm saying, I saw a picture of Brad Pitt. Remember Brad Pitt? Brad Pitt's by himself. I'm over here. Ben Affleck. I'm over here. Everybody else is over here. Everybody else says, here I am. Look at me. Come on, let's party. Leonardo DiCaprio, all those boat photos. You know this world called yachting. This is a phrase that has been outed about. This is where very famous people, maybe B-listers, but somebody, are invited to go on a yacht, maybe by a sheikh or some trillionaire. out there in
see
the
and be
Mediterranean.
seen. Sure.
Well, but I'm saying, but they're out there in the international waters and just hang out with us. Lo and behold, you can come and perhaps make a new friend in this famous person. And they're called yachters, yachting. It is an absolute industry. That has always been thought of as being a means of collecting extortion and blackmail. Come on out. Hi. Hello, president, or it's not president or senator, so-and-so. Be a guest. Guess who's coming? Just a name. Think of some B-list. Would you like to hang out with so-and-so? Hey, great. Go into this room and and I've got this. I've got you in international waters, theoretically, so I'm kind of off the hook. But all of this is recorded. I mean,
okay,
everything.
But let's pretend, though, that we're not talking about Hollywood for a second. And let's pretend that if you really want to make it as an accountant, you have to go to sex parties in order to make it as an accountant. And what's illegal about that? And what could the government do to say, this can't happen anymore? Now everyone who wants to make it as an accountant has to do so on the up and up. Could we have a world in which that is the case for entertainment? Let's be utopic for a second.
Nothing wrong with doing this. If you want to be accountancy, listen, we got a Christmas party. Come on. If you want to be a member of the book, absolutely not. That's not sex between consenting adults is not against the law, irrespective of the reason for it. How many times do people have sex with their boss to advance a career within an office? It's done forever. Or people who just, suck up, not literally, but I mean, so that's not the problem. What's interesting is that when you use this information to get to threaten somebody, to coerce somebody, to have some type of an upper hold, that's extortion, that's blackmail, that's another story. If it involves the use of children, if you're trafficking children, that's another story as well. But as you said just now, and I said initially, if Diddy said, I plead guilty, I'm a player, so what? I never force anybody to do this. And we had IV drugs, and you may not like my lifestyle. This may not be for you, but I've got a list of people begging. And as soon as this girl drops out, I've got another one to replace her. This isn't trafficking. This isn't coercion, fraud, abuse, neglect, or whatever. This is just me being Diddy. It's a sick world, and you're welcome to it.
Yeah. Okay, that's a terrifying outcome, though, to just say, yeah, I did this, but it was all consensual, and then he gets off. So, okay. Yes. I mean, it is, you can sue your boss for forcing him to have sex in order for a promotion. That is a civil case.
You can do it. Right, you can do this. However, you could do it if you felt like you had to. Years ago, give an example. There was a case, we don't really have them anymore, but there was in the 80s or whatever, there was this groups of people who were swingers, and they would go into like a Ramada Inn, someplace, and
sure.
And they tried to break it up until somebody said, what's the crime here? Is it assignation? What are they doing? They're having sex. Okay. And they said, well, it seemed wrong. And then they said, my God, this is going on all the time. And the more they looked into it, it seemed as though there was something wrong with it. It might be morally reprehensible, but there was nothing illegal about it. It was one of those things in which it's one of those. I'll give you an example of one thing which I thought
it's
was
unseemly. Okay, but it's certainly, I mean, that's even more depressing, though, that these artifacts of clear social decay are legal. Okay.
No, in your opinion, it is. Listen, I don't want to be.
Okay.
Listen, I think it's depraved. I don't understand it. What I don't understand could fill libraries, but I know what's done. I think like a lawyer. Are you breaking the law? Are you breaking the law? Let me give you one more. I got to throw this one at you. There was a woman years ago who was she was not a hooker, not a prostitute, but she was a bondage mistress. And to make a long story short, she was found dead, or it was tragic. Okay, so they were asking whether she was a prostitute, and they said no, because she was not involved in sexual intercourse or intromission. She was involved basically in role playing. He said, yes, people were coming over there and she was beating him with whips, whatever. He goes, yes, but that's not sexual. He says, well, it was to them. And they said, yes, but it's not intercourse. And people were going crazy there. What do you mean it's not intercourse? There's got to be something wrong with it. That's depraved. That's sad. It's not illegal. What if I paid you to be my friend? Natalie, be my friend. Here's $100. That's all I want. Be my friend. Now listen, if anybody asks you, you're my friend. How pathetic is that? Yes, it's not illegal. There are things that you can do that really don't, there's nothing illegal about that. It may be strange. I'll go one step further. That second, quote, assassination attempt, it wasn't an assassination attempt. He brought a gun to a thing and was thinking about it, but they didn't catch him doing anything. He was ready for it, and this drives people crazy. What if he changed his mind? The law says, is there a law? Did you violate it? Whether you like it or not, whether you think, come on, with smoke, there's fire. And in this particular case with Diddy, what he may or may not have done, theoretically in some eyes, might not have been against the law.
Okay.
It's
I mean,
demented.
that's why his lawyer continues to say there will be no plea. We will fight this in court and we will
Don't
win.
say that.
So
he should never say that. Never, don't say that. Just say things like,
well, he said it. He said it on CNN. So, I mean,
Indeed.
We're talking about really brazen people here. Clearly, they feel free to have sex orgies. And
Breaking news tonight. Diddy hungry? Sean Combs apparently refusing jail food. Some say he's missing his private chef and convinced he will be poisoned. Because remember, it's all about him. Okay, it's not about his alleged sex trafficking victims. It's about him. He actually thinks someone might poison him behind bars. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us.
Diddy done it. Rap star and music mogul Sean Puffy Combs slammed with his 11th lawsuit just weeks after his arrest on sex trafficking charges.
And I know he's in the MDC right now, but he better hide under his bed because Gloria Allred is up his tailpipe now. In the last hours, is there ever a moment that a lawyer who is used to talking for a living realizes I should just shut up? Apparently not in some cases. In the last hours, TMZ, who is creating the downfall of Diddy on Tubi, our friend Harvey Levin, who created TMZ, sits down with Sean Combs's lawyer. I want you to hear what happened. Watch.
They called them freak-offs. But, back when I was a kid in the late 70s, they were called threesomes.
If these are genuinely threesomes, how do you explain 1,000 bottles of baby oil?
I don't know where the number 1,000 came.
The U.S. attorney said it.
I can't imagine it's thousands. I mean, and I'm not really sure what the baby oil has to do with anything.
They're essentially saying it's a lubricant for an orgy.
I guess. I don't know what you need 1,000. One bottle of baby oil goes a long way. I don't know what you need 1,000 for. I mean, he has a big house. He buys in bulk. I think they have Costco's in every place where he has a home. I mean, have you sat in the parking lot of a Costco and see what people walk out of there with?
Not 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
I don't think it was 1,000. I think it was. Let's just say it's a lot. Okay.
Every time I watch it, guys, that's from our friends at TMZ. That's our friend Harvey Levin speaking to Combs's lawyer, Agna Fellow, from the downfall of Diddy, the indictment now on Tubi. From now on, he is stuck, Agna Fellow. His face is going to appear, and underneath it, it will say, 1 bottle of baby oil goes a long way. And you got Levin having to explain that fellow that baby oil is a lubricant for an orgy, but that's not what's happening here. It's not an orgy with willing participants. It is forced sex trafficking. And as much as I want to play that clip 5 million times and watch it over and over, joining me right now, Lynn Shaw, founder and director of Lynn's Warriors, that is devoted and committed to stopping sex trafficking. Now, the lawyer is not helping anything regarding Combs. And I got a lot of territory to cover tonight. But Lynn Shaw, can we bring it back home and stop laughing about the baby oil as a lubricant and 1,000 bottles? And I got to imagine Harvey Levin sitting outside of a Costco. That has never happened in life. But this is a very serious claim, and the feds are not playing. Let's bring it home, Lynn Shaw. We know Gloria Allred is now representing the latest alleged victim. She doesn't play. This is serious. When you hear what this victim says, your stomach is going to clench.
You know, Nancy, when I see that lawyer, I have to start here. I'm sorry. I know this is a family show, but I want to slap him across his face. This is no laughing matter. All of this deflection about the baby oil, the lubricant, and his smug attitude, that should all be put the efforts on the victims, the survivors of all of this that we have heard about for decades now. Where is that? His dismissive attitude, not even addressing any of these women. And I want everybody to remember, there are rumors, right, of minors, children, teens, and boys and young men. We're not even talking about them at all. So when I see a Gloria Allred, she means business. And let me tell you, I hope with her presence and everybody, you know, she's a well-known name, that more of these women will step forward. And particularly, I want them as teens, because we heard for decades, there were girls 15, 16, 17. That's what we heard about, and teenage boys. So I wish everybody would put the focus on, what about that? Forget the baby oil. I am tired of that one. Put it on what's, you know, I don't care what he's eating in his prison cell. I don't care who he's rooming with, Sam Bankman-Fried. I don't care he's afraid of getting poisoned. Let us turn this around and let us go hardcore into what actually happened. What's on those tapes? Let's see those tapes. And everybody should start listening to Suge Knight, this is my opinion, and 50 Cent, because they are unraveling a lot of information that we at the Warriors believe to be true about the abuse of several women, girls, men, and boys. And that's what we need to focus on.
Guys, Lynn is correct. I want to talk about Thalia Graves. Joining me, an investigative reporter with crimeonline.com, Sydney Sumner. Sydney, who is Thalia?
Nancy, Thalia Graves was 25 years old at the time of the alleged incident that she is suing Combs over. She was dating an employee at Bad Boy Records who worked directly under Combs. And her only real connection to Combs was her boyfriend's job, but she apparently was very involved in his employment, and Combs specifically asked to meet with her about her boyfriend's employment. She was very focused on making sure that he did well at this job and was able to climb up the ladder at Bad Boy Records. That's who Thalia Graves is.
She is also one of the latest alleged victims of Sean Combs. Now, keep in mind what Sydney Sumner just told you, that she was called to meet with Combs, according to her, about her boyfriend's job. Now, what do you think she would do to safeguard the boyfriend's job? Listen.
The internal pain after being sexually assaulted has been incredibly deep and hard to put into words. It goes beyond just physical harm caused by and during the assault.
I've dealt with a lot of victims. She, Thalia, in my mind, is telling the truth. Joining me now, a veteran trial lawyer who has defended drug lords, you name it, Renee Rockwell. You can find her on Facebook, Renee.Rockwell. Renee, thank you for being with us. You have dealt with many victims. You, on the defense side, defending their attackers, alleged attackers. Me, on the other side, representing the crime victim. It's a defense attorney's worst nightmare when the victim takes the stand and comes across as genuinely as Thalia Graves does.
Nancy, but she's involved in a lawsuit. And I've always felt like a lawsuit, when you're suing somebody, cheapens your position because now it's about the money. And secondly, do you think that Combs cares about all these lawsuits that are filed against him? He wants to get out of jail, and he should be out of jail. He's not guilty yet, and he was going to turn himself in, and now he's sitting in a jail. Where's the presumption of innocence, Nancy?
Got a question for you, Ms. Rockwell. What should I do right now? Send you the keys to the Fulton County Jail where all your clients are awaiting trial? HELLNO. He should not be out of jail. Unlike your clients, he has the wherewithal to hop right over to Teterboro and leave the country. He doesn't need a passport to get on that plane. And I guarantee you that there are plenty of countries across this world, France, for one, who's hiding out Roman Polanski and more, would be happy to have him spending his money there. So are you telling me that you believe every defendant charged in a federal lawsuit, a federal criminal charge, should get bond?
Nancy, he hired an attorney. He was planning on turning himself in, and they grabbed him ahead of time. Now, I'll tell clients,
who cares?
Once against him, to beat them to the jail. When you turn in, that's the first thing you can tell the magistrate. He turned himself in. What they did was the SWAT team grabbed him before he could get there. I just have a problem with pre-trial detention when you're innocent until proven guilty.
Okay, you know what? I asked you one question. You gave me a different answer. You avoided it. That's okay. You're just arguing he got in jail too soon, because there is no way that two judges, Tiranovsky and Carter, are going to turn down his bond based on the fact that he was arrested and didn't turn himself in. But I give you credit for trying to say, look at this, not at that. It might work with other people. It does not work with me. And I want to go back to, actually, she said something very valuable. And that is, once you file a civil lawsuit, does that make me not believe her? No, I think she should file a civil lawsuit. But a good defense attorney like Rockwell will take that innocent fact and twist it around and contort it and fire it back at her on cross-examination. Along the lines of, isn't it true you filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Mr. Combs? Isn't that true? And she'll have to say yes. And then they'll say, so you want this jury to believe that you're only coming forward because you were not because you want the money? And then she'll have to say and explain herself to the jury. Is it true? No. Will it happen in court? Absolutely. You be the judge. You listen to Thalia Graves. Listen.
Some of the hardest parts of this pain are the shame and the guilt I have experienced that plays a negative part in my day-to-day ability to function properly. Being blamed, questioned, and threatened has often made me feel worthless, isolated, and sometimes responsible for what happened to me.
To Dr. Bethany Marshall, renowned psychoanalyst joining us out of Beverly Hills, author of A Deal Breaker. You can also see her on Peacock. Dr. Bethany Marshall, when I hear what that victim says, it's so upsetting. And she said it all. I'm glad she's got Gloria Allred by her side. I know a lot of
Yes.
people, mock Allred and make fun of Allred. They're just jealous. She's an incredible lawyer, and she stands by her client through hell and high water. But she says the shame and guilt I have experienced plays a negative part in my life every day. And I have found that to be true with not only victims, but adult victims of child. Even after all those years, Bethany, they're still hounded, haunted by what happened to them as a child, and that feeling of helplessness. I can't stress that enough. You get over the cuts, the bruises, the abrasions of a rape or a sin, and you go forward with that. You heal. But up here, I don't know that you ever heal, Bethany.
Nancy, you never heal. And let's just be clear about what happened to her. She was served a drink with drugs in it. She was brought into a studio. When she came to, Sean Puffy Combs allegedly was bashing her head against a pool table. She woke up again to being raped by him and his bodyguard, and then once again being forced to perform. So let's just contextualize my comments, and that is that she's definitely experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, and the cognitive component is self-blame, intrusive thoughts that one is to blame for the crime that occurred, for the assault that occurred. But Nancy, there are other symptoms. Avoidance is one of the most prominent symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. In this case, it would be avoidance of anything that would remind her of the original trauma. So she, for instance, she may not be able to date because if a man flirts with her, she's going to be going into a flashback and then confusing that with the original trauma, because the brain evens out past and present. Anything in the present that is reminiscent of the original trauma is felt to be identical. So let's say she gets in a great relationship, she's about to have sex or to be intimate, and all of a sudden she goes into a flashback and experiences herself as about to be. So this is disrupting her
Bethany,
relationships.
I've got an example that I want to give you.
Okay.
I had a very close colleague when I was criminal prosecutor, violent crime prosecutor. And when I had any legal issue, I would go to her. Brilliant mind. Happily married, well into her marriage. She suddenly had a flashback of being by a family member as a child. Can I tell you that was the beginning of the end of her marriage? All those years later. It happens.
That's right.
It happens. And people may not believe it, but I know her like the back of my hand. And I remember when it happened. And
Nancy, I had a patient
it was
for many
so
years.
vivid and so upsetting. She couldn't eat for days.
Yeah. Yeah, because she had that intrusive memory. She had no idea that it happened until it went through her mind. Nancy, I saw a patient for many years who was repeatedly assaulted as a child, and she finally found a great relationship with a wonderful man, but she couldn't be sexually intimate because when he was about to, make love to her, she would actually experience it as if she was being.
Disgraced rapper and musician Sean Puffy Combs sits in a jail cell while he is served with yet another lawsuit alleging he assaulted and filmed his attack on a victim.
As Diddy sits in jail on federal charges, a 12th victim has come forward with a lawsuit alleging Sean Combs drugged and raped her. Thalia Graves, who was dating a bad boy employee, says she accepted a glass of wine from Diddy while riding in a car driven by head of security Joseph Sherman. Graves says she doesn't remember passing out, but when she wakes up, she's lying face down on a pool table with her hands tied behind her back as Sean Combs rapes her. Years later, Graves learns Combs videoed the attack and distributed it to others.
Good Lord in heaven. Videoed the attack and distributed the video to others. Graves, the lady we're seeing, Thalia Graves, claims she vomited and involuntarily during the attack. She claimed Sean Combs wiped it all off and continued her. She says Combs threatened her over the years to stay quiet. Now, let's just think about what we're hearing right now. The statute of limitations has run on her case. She stayed quiet for a long time, understandably, if this is true. She can still come into court, people. Get ready for that as a similar transaction. And Renee Rockwell, you know how much I love. That's the first thing I would do when I get a case. Run the rap sheet. Run it in every state, every jurisdiction for me to start looking for similar transactions. Because if they're identical enough and they're close enough in time, they can be brought in front of a jury to show multiple things: motive, course of conduct, frame of mind, MO, modus operandi, method of operation. It can be used for many, many things. And this woman, Thalia Graves, is saying exactly what the current accusers are saying, Renee.
Exactly, Nancy. They all come in. The jury hears everything and can't decide what's important. Do I consider this just for the instant crime, or is this his signature crime? Is this his MO with every female? Another interesting thing is, and when we talk about the video tape recordings of all these incidents, Nancy, I'll be interested in knowing if the attorney is going to try to keep those excluded. In other words, they're picked up on a search warrant and they're opened without another search warrant. Remember, we went through that with a different case in Fulton County. So it'll be interesting.
Good luck on that. Because when you go in on a search warrant and you are looking for evidence that would be probative, prove something to a crime, you can look at the video. But I'd like to hear you make that argument in court. It's a good one, Renee, and not going to work. I want to go back to Thalia Graves. Thalia Graves, the one that vomited and during the attack. You be the judge. This is damning. If this is true, and like Rockwell said, Combs is believed, assumed, presumed innocent until proven guilty. Okay. Do you believe her? Listen.
The trauma of the assault has taken a toll on my mental health. I've had PTSD, depression, and anxiety. I'm emotionally scarred. It has been hard for me to trust others, to form healthy relationships, or even feel safe in my own skin.
Dr. Bethany Marshall, just watching her, I want to get your analysis of looking at her and hearing her.
Nancy, she sounds like she's in a major depressive disorder, that her cognition is a little bit slowed, meaning that she is so preoccupied with what happened to her, it's probably even difficult to get words out. Nancy, I doubt that she's really able to work. So she deserves to bring this civil lawsuit forward. She needs that money in order to support her for the rest of her life, not only support her financially, but also to pay for all of her medical needs. But again, she is classically post-traumatic stress disorder. This is classic tearfulness, anxiety.
Okay, Bethany, you look at this completely differently than I do, because I don't know all the words you're saying. I don't have your vernacular, but this is what I look for in any witness statement. I look for demeanor. I look to see if they're having the reaction I would expect them to have. Of course, I could be wrong, but I look for that. But one thing I look for the most, that is their statement rich in detail? Detail that would be difficult to make up. Combs's family has come out and stated that the recent book by Kim Porter is not Kim's words. However, I find it extremely rich in detail, with details I would not expect someone to readily put out there because they're very, very embarrassing. And she, Kim Porter, in this reported book, says what you just said, that Combs would set up threesomes, which would get bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. And it would be Porter with Combs and other guys. And then bit by bit, she noticed that it's mostly them, and she's just standing, she's not really taking part in it. That's what is in her book.
And Nancy, this was not a book when she originally wrote it. Women who are victims of domestic violence and assault notoriously keep diaries. And the reason they keep diaries is the assault leaves them in a dissociated state where they don't trust their own perceptions. So they write and write and write about what happened to them because they're trying to make sense of it. I've had abuse victims drive around with piles of notebooks in the back of their car because all they were doing was writing and writing to just kind of hold on to the thread of the horrible criminal actions against them and trying to make sense of it. So this was her diary. This wasn't a book. This is her diary.
Defendant Combs and another defendant committed a violation of New York civil rights law, quote, section 52-B, end quote, by quote, plaintiff and recording it. The lawsuit also alleges that, quote, defendant Combs and another defendant published and or disseminated the videos without plaintiff's knowledge or consent.
Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast getting special treatment. But now, Diddy hungry? Apparently, he's missing his private chef. I hate when that happens, when you can't take your private chef, your celebrity chef, with you behind bars at the Metro Detention Center. That's gotta hurt. But we are also hearing that he is so self-centered, he thinks he may be poisoned behind bars. Let's just think that through to its logical conclusion. To Dr. Dwayne Hendricks joining us, former associate warden at the MDC in Brooklyn. And there's just so much more to his resume. But I will say, author, who are you? See it, say it, and seize it. Okay, Dr. Hendricks, can we just talk about the MDC for one moment and what it would take? I mean, Epstein reportedly killed himself, and the guards didn't even notice. They were online shopping and sleeping. So under this theory, they're not slackers anymore, and they're willing to execute a covert operation to poison Diddy, right? How's that going to happen, Dr. Hendricks?
First of all, that's not going to happen. MCC New York is where the incident happened with Mr. Epstein. But at MDC Brooklyn, that definitely will not happen. But in terms of the conditions, his conditions, think about someone who probably never wore the same outfit twice in a row or 2 times. And now all of a sudden you are in handcuffs, you're being processed, you're being booked, you're getting fingerprinted, you're going through an intake process. They ask you questions about your medical history, your mental health. Are you in fear for your life?
Wait, excuse me, Dr. Hendricks, excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask the control room why you keep showing me photos of a metal urinal? I don't care that Combs has to urinate into a metal urinal. Don't care. So if you think that's engendering sympathy or empathy, it's not. Okay, I'm sorry, Dr. Hendricks. You were saying for a guy that's used to never wearing the same outfit twice, what were you saying?
Yeah, and who's never lost control of his whereabouts. I mean, you think about, you go from a 14,000 square foot mansion in one city, a 17,000 square foot mansion in another city, and now you're in a 6 foot by 8 foot cell, 23 hours a day for the foreseeable future. That will take a mental toll on a person. However, I'm sure he's going through an array of emotions in terms of wanting to control his environment, what he eats, when he sleeps, who he gets to talk to. And based on the high profile, this, because this is a high profile case, obviously we would want to, or the institution would want to place him in a special housing or in an area where they can, monitor his behavior and make sure that he is not.
BS. Sorry. BS. He is in a special unit because he's rich and famous. Just like Bankman Free down the hall from him. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He is not suicidal. So why is he in the med unit?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what unit he's on, but if he's in special housing,
I just told you.
If he is in special housing, he is in administrative detention. Okay. And they need to assess his case in terms of being high profile, especially with the, what happened with the individual Epstein at MCC New York. They're going to treat him just like they treated Ghislaine Maxwell, the same way they treated R. Kelly when he was incarcerated there. He is not getting special
treatment. Did you say high profile? He is in a different unit because he's high profile. And while I've got you, Dr. Dwayne Hendricks, look, I'm not attacking you. I'm attacking what's happening. Did I hear steak? Did I hear chicken, bone-in chicken with stuffed chicken with rice, eggplant parm, a ribbed steak? What? I don't get that. Why is he getting it?
That is not true. He's not getting it. I'm sitting here looking at the national menu for the Federal Bureau of Prisons as we speak. You're talking about Parmesan. On certain Mondays of the month, they get chicken Parmesan. And I'll tell you, in detention centers, food is cooked 3 days in advance.
Are you actually trying to make a difference with me between chicken parm and eggplant parm? Oh, no, it's not eggplant parm, Nancy. It's chicken parm.
No, what I'm trying to explain, Nancy, is it's a national menu. These meals are cooked 3 days in advance, okay? So can you think about having, 1,500 persons that you have to cook for every day, 3 meals a day. They're cooked in a certain location in the jail. They have to be packaged, put in food carts, and then moved over to the housing unit they're in. They're ribeye steaks.
Don't care. What does that have to do with what I'm saying?
No, what I'm saying is he's not getting the food that you're talking about. There is no steak.
What exactly is Sean Diddy Combs eating in jail? Word is, it's not the meals provided by food services for fear he might be poisoned. Ex-inmate Larry Levine says Combs may be paranoid, but it's not unimaginable that someone inside could be paid off to poison the food with a substance that could give Diddy a heart attack, for instance. Correctional officers don't make a lot of money, and the people who may or may not be on Diddy's tapes have plenty of money. Levine concedes a much simpler explanation is many prisoners just don't like the food when they first arrive.
Yeah, especially when you've been living with a private chef. Okay, Dr. Bethany, help me out because I don't think I have the right words to truly enunciate the massive me. He actually thinks somebody's going to risk their job to kill him and nobody will ever find out. You don't think they'll do an autopsy and find poison in his system? Is he crazy?
Nancy, yes, certifiably, he's crazy. Nancy, it's very typical for men who are sociopathic, and obviously I don't know Sean Puffy Combs, but the traits that I'm seeing are very sociopathic. For them to feel grandiose and vulnerable, like they can get away with everything until they get caught. Once they're caught, they do become quite paranoid. It's like there's this weird psychological collapse where all of a sudden they think everybody's against them, and they're right. They are going to get in trouble. People are against them, but not in the sense that they're going to poison the food. Can
you please put it in a nutshell because you're totally losing me in the weeds. What? Nobody's poisoning Diddy. That's just another grandiose conspiracy theory.
He's paranoid because he knows he did bad things. He's displacing it into
the food. I just understood. Renee Rockwell with me, a veteran criminal defense attorney who, I don't know how she does it, defends every day of her life. Have fun with that, Renee. But really, he actually thinks he's going to get poisoned behind what?
Nancy, Do you think for one second that his life is not in danger? He's got federal charges. They're very, very serious.
Did you want me to actually answer that? Yes,
Can
I
I
think
finish?
somebody might enjoy beating him up. Nobody's going to poison him.
Do you think his life is not in danger with federal charges where other people are going to be implicated? He's on fire right now. He's on fire right now. The only thing he can do with all these videos is stop, drop, and roll. He's going to have to roll.
Okay, I don't even know what that has to do with him being poisoned and behind bars. I can't wait to find out if Diddy going to do a hunger strike. Not happening. Oh, I just had a great idea, Renee. Maybe he should get a royal food taster for King Combs behind bars. What about that, Dr. Hendricks? Now we're going to have to test his food so nobody drops a little poison in there.
No, that wouldn't need to happen. The inmates, the incarcerated persons are the ones who's preparing those meals, and no one's going to poison his food. Now, I will say this, as far as a hunger strike, they are monitoring all of his meals, and if he misses a certain amount, the medical staff will be checking his vitals, and mental health staff will be checking in.
I can't believe this guy's getting all this, checking his vitals, my rear end. You know what? Let's bring it home, like Lynn Shaw says. Can we stop talking about his food and his celebrity chef and his alleged poisoning behind bars? This is what I'm talking about. Listen.
The DHS, Department of Homeland Security source, says Sean Combs kept sensitive and embarrassing videos from the sessions as collateral to ensure silence from his victims, who are often young women, barely old enough or still too young to legally consent to sexual activity. He further says the recovered tapes show women completely out of it, while male sex workers assault them on Combs' orders. The investigator says, in his opinion, Diddy's as bad as Jeffrey Epstein.
Not only the women, the allegations not yet proved in court, but videoing them and dispersing them, Lynn Shaw, this is exactly what you were talking about.
I don't even know what we're talking about here today. We're talking about if he can get some extra Snickers bars, this guy, when 1 in 4 children in America go to bed hungry every night. I know lawyers, I say this with all due respect, you're ruining everything for assault victims and victims. I'm even married to a lawyer. Why are we disbelieving the victims? You always believe a victim until proven otherwise. We're worried about he's going to be poisoned. I'm sure in this jail, detention center, they're lined up and want to use their commissary dollars to buy him food. I am sick of talking about him, because now we have all these videos and nobody's addressing, I am sure. Not only has he blackmailed people, threatened people, and we don't know. There are going to be probably thousands of women, and I'm going to keep saying minors, boys, and young men too, and men also. And this is the tip of the iceberg. So we should be talking about that. And furthermore, I spent yesterday, we work with victims every single day at the Warriors. And I was with one of our warriors yesterday, and she said, stop calling it post-traumatic stress disorder. Call it post-traumatic stress. It is not a disorder, Lynn. Look what was done to us. We can't eat. We can't work. You can't work. You can't make money. You might have children. How are you going to feed your children? This is the focus. Lives are ruined, and it goes on the trauma for the rest of one's life. And that's where we should be putting the focus, not on he is welcome to have Swedish meatballs and mashed potatoes and gravy. I don't want to hear about that anymore. Focus on the victims.
I had sex with Cassie and Sean. Basically, he would masturbate and tell me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard lots of business. Because what they would do is Sean talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with speakers and stuff, and I was like a sex slave.
That is Jonathan Odie under interrogation, describing basically, in his words, being a sex slave to Sean Combs. But what sticks out in my mind about what he said is that he says he hears Combs doing business deals. That's exactly what Kim Porter says in her book. And she refers to a hit on Notorious B.I.G., Biggie, and a hit on Tupac Shakur. Her children and family say she didn't write it. That said, that's in the book. But that said, where are all of Combs's celebrity friends? Joining us now, a PR guru, marketing executive, best-selling author of Enemies Closer, his latest book. He is also president and CEO of Breaking News PR, Josh Sabera. Josh, thank you for joining us. Where are all Diddy's friends? Because, you know, during Harvey Weinstein, they couldn't get in front of a microphone fast enough. But now everybody's gone DEFCON 4, radio silent.
Right. It's the typical Hollywood reputation management situation where you're guilty by association. So I would advise a client not to speak on the subject because it then puts their name in the mix when something's in a very hot or current news cycle. So they become attached to something that they don't necessarily want to be. But as you know, Hollywood can be conspicuously silent.
I know how you are, in fact, a city boy, but in my neck of the woods, when you pass a cow pasture, you don't run straight to the cow poop and jump in it because it will stick on your clothes. So let me understand something. Now, all of Sean Combs' famous friends, business partners, they're all being scrutinized. Every other day, I see another famous star. Look, they're in a picture with Combs. You got, I don't know if Obama's been in a picture or not, but you've got Trump, you've got Hillary, I think you've got Harris. You have, there's Usher. You got Justin Bieber. You have Naomi Campbell. You got the Kardashians. Everybody is pictured with him like that's somehow incriminating. Well, it's not.
Correct. But in this climate, you know, and social media being, you know, so important to people, everything can be a landmine in the middle of cancel culture. So nobody wants to take that risk. And taking a stand means that they're attaching themselves to a negative news story that's very current. And nobody wants to have their name associated with it. But the truth is, and you know, Nancy, being a celebrity, you know, people take pictures at parties, events, all kinds of things. And you don't necessarily know who you're taking a picture with or what's in that person's past.
So they're choosing to stay silent so they don't get the stink on them. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. They, you know, people don't want the association. It's like when a brand wants to disassociate from somebody because they're afraid of tarnishing it. For example, Kanye West and Adidas.
Dr. Bethany Marshall, did you just hear Josh Sabera? What, are they afraid they don't want to go down with the ship, or are they jumping ship like drowning rats?
Nancy, they were on the ship with P Diddy. They did see things. They did hear things. Somebody that like P Diddy is so pathological. All he wants to do is talk about sex and his obsession with drugging women and putting them behind locked doors, just like he did on Conan O'Brien. I'm sure he talked to his celebrity friends. They dismissed it. They're thinking back on it. They're like, ruh-roh, I was involved conversationally in talking about a crime.
And while they, I believe, were not part of the so-called freak-offs, that's certainly putting perfume on the pig. That's a euphemism. It's sex trafficking, as Lynn Shaw keeps reminding us rightfully. They're all gone. Why? They wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. But if you know or think you know information that would be pertinent to the prosecution of Sean Puffy Combs, please dial toll-free 877-WANTED-2. Repeat, 877.
Now, Peeps, former Rockefeller CEO Dame Dash appears to be claiming that Jay-Z is next in the Diddy takedown.
If you're going down on this one, I can't go with you.
Now, he was asked some valid questions in a sit-down as to why Jay-Z hasn't dispelled any of the rumors of his ex-crimes being tied with Diddy, and he's got a major point. Now, 90% of the time, if somebody is truly innocent, they will come through and clear their name. Now, there's even reports of Leonardo DiCaprio clearing his name, letting people know he was not involved in some of the Diddy allegations, but Jay-Z has stayed completely mute. Now, make sure you watch this whole entire video so that you don't miss nothing.
It would be such another big blow for hip-hop. Regardless of what, perception-wise, Jay is also a pillar of hip-hop.
They ain't going
If
for his
anything bad
stuff.
happens to him, then it's really going to look crazy for hip-hop. So I would never want to think that he lost his soul to that extent. This is someone I grew up with. No matter what, I don't wish if he was doing the crazy shit they're saying, then, there's going to always be some degree of recourse at some point. But I really hope that shit ain't true. I would hate to think that the people that were in my world really had that degree of a secret. That they were completely different people than, I was trying to empower. Like there was a time pause that he inspired me. I love his family. I love his mother. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to be beefing with people when I know their children or their parents to a certain level. You're still cool with the kids. That's why we're like, he was supposed to be Jay's supposed to be my son's godfather. I'm like, how does he do that to Boogie's his godson's father? So there are some levels that I know are dark. But again, I'm just hoping that it's not that dark. Because then I'm going to have to process that. But I just wish, to be honest, that the people that are being accused of certain things, they should just step up and be like, yo, they bugging. Just dead that shit. Like, this is a very transparent place and world in these days. It's very easy to say that's not true. When I wasn't at that party, I didn't do what they said I did. And, I remember when I would ask Jay, yo, how come they keep saying we beefing and how come you don't say nothing about it? He would go, I don't want to bring no fuel to it. Nah, that brought all the fuel to it. So being silent is sometimes the loudest thing in the world. So I believe if the things aren't true, because I hear the stuff that Jaguar says, and she be on like 10 toes down, like not allegedly. And I've been sued for not saying allegedly. That's why I got this problem I have now with this judgment. I have been sued for not saying allegedly. So the things she's saying, and she'd be like, no allegedly, like no Diddy pause, or like, they'd be like, no allegedly. I would think that they could shut that down. So I'm curious now. I'm not saying it's true or not. I'm saying, yo, well, how come when I say the littlest shit, like I got sued again by that, and again, I don't want to get sued, right? Because they take anything, but Josh Weber, the dude that's pretending he directed a movie I directed based on my personal account, sued me in LA again for $4 million for a interview I did with Earn Your Leisure where I didn't even say his name. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be careful. So I know, like, you get sued for nothing. So I'm like, yo, how come nobody's suing these people? Why won't they just say nah? Like, I'm not calling out no names, but we all know that the shit they're saying is nuts. Pause. It's so that I can't even, it's nuts. And not just for Homeboy, for everybody. So I'm hoping the stuff I'm hearing isn't going to happen. I'm hoping that the stuff I'm hearing isn't true. I don't want anybody to be that dumb. I don't want another blow for hip hop. And I'm just trying to figure out, I'm very curious to know who was at the party. You know what I'm saying? Like someone was there. I'm not going to even hold you. Like I can't pretend I don't want to know. But I'm saying DiCaprio, and I can tell you stories about that dude later or another time. But he came out with like, yo, I don't, he said something. He did say something. This press, whatever they wanted him to say, he had a statement. So I want to know why there's no statement from all these other, like the shit they saying is unbelievable. It's crazy.
Yeah, you would definitely think somebody will actually want to clear their name after they're getting drugged by the media. But, sometimes a guilty conscience makes people stay away. When they don't have anything to say, sometimes they'll just completely stay quiet. I mean, he hasn't had no lawyers speak out for him, anything. He's acting like none of this is actually occurring, and this is absolutely crazy. Now, another person's life who he destroyed is J-Lo. And J-Lo is definitely not a victim. Now, you notice her and Ben Affleck, they got a divorce after the feds seized those Diddy tapes. So allegedly, it's being indicated that the feds gave Ben Affleck those tapes, and he was so shocked and appalled, he decided to divorce her. Now, a lot of people were speculating as to what exactly the feds were looking for, and it appears they were searching for a very specific piece of key evidence. Now, allegations came out about Jennifer Lopez sneaking in the gun that Diddy used for the December 1999 shooting, and that he paid Shine $1 million to do a 10-year bid for him. She went from Jenny from the block to Jenny with the Glock. Now, being that no one was killed, Jennifer Lopez was able to walk away from the charges unscathed due to the statute of limitations. Now, if the lady had died that he shot, then the statute of limitations would not apply. She would have had some type of criminal liability in the case, so she got lucky. Her woo lady must have been working overtime.
If you believe in voodoo.
Now, as I mentioned in my previous video, Diddy took off in his G5 jet in order to try and evade prosecution. Now, bro is definitely shaking in his boots. But what he didn't realize, though, was while he was wings up with moderate to low turbulence, is that his alleged drug mule was getting locked up. So let's talk about what we know about this drug mule before we get into what the feds tore his houses up for. Now, he was described in a recent lawsuit and was arrested Monday while Diddy and his crew were stopped by federal law enforcement agents. Now, according to the affidavits, 25-year-old Brendan Paul was booked on 2 separate drug charges after the feds intercepted Diddy's plane at the Opa-locka airport in Miami. He was hit with 1 count of possession of suspected cocaine and another possession of suspected marijuana, both of which are felonies in Florida. Now, it appears that he was waiting to serve Diddy his fix before Diddy flew off into the sunset. Now, in the paperwork, officers claimed that while they were working in conjunction with Homeland Security and Customs and Border Protection personnel, they came across what they described as the suspected drugs in Paul's travel bags, which they say he actually claimed. Florida officers went on to say that the suspected narcotics were tested and found to be legit, leading to Brendan Paul's arrest. He was booked into jail but has since actually bailed out. Now, it's important to note that Brendan Paul was named in Rodney Jones, aka Little Rod's, explosive complaint against Diddy, which identified him as a close confidant of Diddy's and as someone who allegedly handles Diddy's drugs/guns. Now, he is additionally accused of aiding and abetting Combs and his associates in the alleged trafficking by paying freak-off workers in cash. Now, Diddy thought by having him on his team, he could sneak and do his dirt, but he didn't realize that the feds be watching everybody. Now, reportedly, all of those freak-off allegations piqued the feds' interest, and the reason they stormed his home was to find copies of the videos that Cassie and Little Rod had mentioned. Now, apparently, those videos contain shocking evidence that could put Diddy away forever. Now, apparently, man, Diddy is not wanting to take a plea deal. He's actually wanting to go to trial, and the trial is actually set to be going down on this one, I can't go with or so. Now, it's interesting that Dame Dash actually spoke out about his former friend Jay-Z, and I want to get you guys' opinions on.
Some crazy documents just leaked from the ongoing federal case against Diddy, and it looks like we finally have confirmation that not only was Rihanna allegedly Jay-Z's victim, but he also sold her to his BFF Diddy, as well as other people in the industry. The streets have been saying this for a hot minute now, that Jay-Z is not exactly innocent, because he and Diddy were up to some real crazy stuff on the down low, and it looks like those shenanigans are finally coming to light. Y'all, looks like we finally know why Rihanna never wants to get in the studio again. According to these documents, she was allegedly turned every way but loose. Y'all need to get on this, because this tea is absolutely crazy. The streets have been buzzing about Rihanna and Jay-Z's real relationship for ages, and those rumors just don't seem to fade. Rihanna entered the industry as a teenager, and Jay-Z was her mentor, basically running every part of her life. The gossip about their dynamic has always stayed strong, even though they have both denied being involved with each other. Rihanna didn't take his mentorship for granted because she was super grateful for every opportunity that she had been given.
Working with Jay and having a collaboration with him is just one of those things that everyone dreams to do in their musical career. And here I am at 19 years old with the #1 single and featuring Jay-Z. It's just, I can't fathom it sometimes. It's just too much for me. It's overwhelming sometimes.
Then the tea started spilling that Jay-Z and Rihanna might have secretly had something going on, even though he was married to Beyonce. At first, people weren't really tripping because, fake rumors are flying around the industry all the time. But instead of fading away, these whispers just got louder. Next thing we know, her publicist Jonathan Hayes stepped up and took the blame, saying he started the whole thing just to chase some clout and get publicity for Rihanna. He said, "The PR stunt that I did was out of desperation to help break Ponder Replay." He wrote, "It was so reckless and I didn't think it was going to work. I was just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what would stick. I didn't think it would be this big story. But now knowing that people are profiting from speculations and opinions about her really turns my stomach. I'm ashamed that I'm even talking about this. I just want to put this rumor to rest once and for all." But honestly, this story didn't even make sense because Rihanna was already a force in the industry and had already made a name for herself. So there was nothing for her to gain from some so-called publicity stunt. But that was the story that they went with for years. And it didn't take long for some shady business to pop up. And this time, it was when Rihanna shared the real story about how she got signed to Jay-Z. Now, we all think we know the story, or at least the glossy version we were fed. But turns out the truth may be way darker than we ever imagined. So y'all do know that Rihanna is a Barbados baddie, right? Well, by chance, she caught the eye of a music exec while he was on vacation, and boom, she got flued out to the US to perform for Reid and Jay-Z alone as a teenager. This should have been a major red flag, but nobody really questioned it. She was only 16, so legally, a parent or guardian should have been with her, but no, she was on her own, and it got weirder. Sis kept waiting in the office until 3 a.m. because Jay-Z was apparently under strict orders to sign her no matter what. Now, I don't know about y'all, but keeping a 16-year-old in the office until 3 a.m. is beyond red flag and sketchy. To make it even more wild, in an interview, Rihanna said that Jay-Z joked about throwing her out the window of his 27th floor office if she didn't sign.
So nervous. I was shaking literally. But the moment I walked into the office, the atmosphere was so warm and welcoming.
You had to sing a cappella for him?
Yes, I had to sing. I sang Ponder Replay. I sang another ballad from the album last time.
So then what did he say to you? He said something to you.
Oh, yes. He said, "We don't sign songs here. We sign artists." And there was this little pause, and I was nervous. But then he said, "And we're interested." And there was this sudden feel of relief.
But then he said something about a window and a door or something.
Oh, then he said, he did it one more.
I did a lot of homework on you, this lady.
He said, there are two ways to leave here, either through the door with the deal sign or through this window, and we're on the 29th floor.
So he was like, "Where's the pen? Where's the paper? I'm signing."
Yeah.
And I'm sure working with Jay-Z, you've met Beyonce.
That's right.
Intimidating a 16-year-old at 3 a.m, yeah, it's definitely a bad look, no matter how you try to spin it. And pressuring her into signing a contract with these threats? That's even worse. And on top of that, there's still some confusion about whether Jay-Z even had the legal right to make her sign. Remember, Rihanna was 16 at the time. And at that age, you typically can't sign legal contracts without a parent, at least present. Plus, she didn't even have a lawyer to look out for her, so she might have been unknowingly giving up everything. And if these new reports are true, she pretty much did. Jaguar Wright was one of the first to blow the whistle, claiming Jay-Z allegedly Rihanna from Barbados, using his label as a cover. She also claimed Jay-Z allegedly handed Rihanna's father $500,000 when she arrived in the U.S.
Who discovered Rihanna at 3 a.m. in the morning in a hotel room on the island where she comes from with no parental supervision. And then she was put on a private plane, a minor, from one country to another without parental supervision. And she ended up in a boardroom with Mr. Carter without parental supervision. Y'all got young children. Would you just let your daughter leave and go to a whole other country with some motherfucking you don't know?
Absolutely not.
Doing talent shows at 3 a.m.
So you're saying that the rumors are true. There are rumors circulating that Rihanna was actually trapped here. Are you saying that
Starting to
that's
sound that way, don't it? Because her daddy ain't show up till 24 hours later to pick up a $500,000 check for his daughter's ass. Maybe we should look more into that album, Auntie. That album cover was disturbing. A child bride with a crown over her head and smeared on her face.
The whole situation is beyond crazy, but why would Jay-Z pay Rihanna's father that much money in the first place? It starts making sense though when you remember that Rihanna once shared how her dad was cruel towards her and her mother, hurting them on multiple occasions. Jaguar Wright claims that her father allegedly sold her to Jay-Z, and even her publicist's story seems to point out in that direction. But before we get into what the publicist said, let's talk about another claim from Jaguar Wright. She also alleged that Jay-Z would force Rihanna to perform certain favors for industry men at events. Jaguar even suggested that this might have been the reason that Chris Brown lashed out on Rihanna back in 2009.
And Rihanna ain't innocent, because she was in there giving that nigga blood job in the coat closet when Chris Brown came in. He said, "Oh, he's sucking something." Then he said, "I'm done with you," and he stormed out of Clive Davis's house, got into his very expensive car, and Rihanna chased after him. She gets in the car and started fighting on him because he embarrassed her for calling her a sucking and saying in front of everybody that she gave him at Clive Davis's house the night before the Grammys.
So what did Rihanna's publicist say about all this? Well, he hinted very strongly that Jay-Z's hands weren't all clean, and Rihanna was allegedly, and get this, he claimed in an interview that the feds had once interrogated him about Jay-Z's alleged scheme, and that they believed that Rihanna could have been one of his. He said, "It's time for me to finally set the record straight once and for all, as it's way beyond shocking, messy, and just flat out crazy as F. Prepared to be blown away as what I have been through over the years involving this historical scandal that needs to be put to bed for good. Yes, heads are gonna roll, and people will be floored, but the truth needs to be revealed." According to him, when he put out what he believed to be fake rumors about Jay-Z and Rihanna, he was taken in by the feds and interrogated because they had been investigating Jay-Z for trafficking. He said, "One day, unmarked law enforcement cars stopped me. These intimidating individuals introduced themselves as a federal task force, and they requested to speak with me. So I followed them to talk, and I was in a complete state of panic. As I sat in the desolate makeshift interrogation room, the gravity of the situation became clear to me." He continued, "They mentioned that they had been keeping a close watch on Jay-Z since he spent plans on Rivera, and he was also being implicated in a incident with R. Kelly during their joint tour, promoting Jay-Z and R. Kelly's joint album. The officers clarified that they were investigating Jay-Z for allegedly engaging in an intimate activity with young Rihanna and transporting her across international borders. They said she wasn't the only one, and there were many others." He added, No one benefits from reckless ambition. He says the interrogation was a brutal reality check. However, looking back now, there are some serious red flags, as Jay-Z was once very close to R. Kelly, and they have 2 collaborative albums. They have like 30 songs together, and they have toured together. As we all know, Jay-Z has also been extremely close to Diddy for several decades, so it's not very hard to come to some of the conclusions that Trap Lorraine Ross and Jaguar Wright have come to with Jay-Z. Is it just me, or does this sound creepily similar to the things that the federal indictment documents exposed Diddy for? It's like they say birds of a feather definitely flock together, and in this case, they were flocking together extra hard. But I mean, isn't it interesting that Jay-Z immediately started to distance himself from Diddy the moment that Cassie's lawsuit exposed Diddy? Once Cassie filed her shocking and horrific lawsuit against Diddy, Jay-Z suddenly went from being Diddy's BFF to pretending like Diddy doesn't exist. And get this, he tried to be slick about it too. There's been some speculation floating around that Jay-Z canceled his famous Rock Nation brunch this year because of Diddy. Now, if you know anything about Jay-Z, you know he never plays when it comes to his annual brunch. It's a big deal. The event brings out the biggest names in the industry, and getting an invite is an entire flex. Since 2010, Jay's hosted this gathering like clockwork, rain or shine, and the only break being in 2020 due to the pandemic. And honestly, with all the restrictions back then, there was no way it could have happened. Well, Diddy's been a regular at the brunch every year, and his friendship with Jay-Z is well documented. But this year, for obvious reasons, Diddy wasn't exactly a brunch guest material. So naturally, folks were wondering how Jay-Z was going to handle it. Would he take the risk and invite Diddy anyways, or just skip him entirely? Then, out of the nowhere, news dropped that Rock Nation canceled the brunch altogether this year. Of course, that raised some big eyebrows, because the only time they've canceled was during the pandemic. Well, fans quickly started speculating about why the Rock Nation brunch had suddenly been canceled, with some wondering if something serious had happened to Jay-Z or Beyonce. But soon enough, they announced that instead of their usual pre-Grammys brunch, they'd be attending another pre-Grammy gala. The reason? To support their friend, Sony Music Publishing CEO, who was being honored with the Grammy Salute to Industry Icons Award. But that explanation didn't sit right with a lot of people or fans for a couple of reasons. First, Jay-Z was set to receive the Global Icon Award at the Grammys, so it would make sense for him to host a brunch and celebration. And even if they wanted to support their friend, they could have easily scheduled their brunch around the gala. I mean, the brunch date isn't set in stone, so canceling it completely had people side-eyeing the situation, wondering if this was just an excuse to distance himself from Diddy and avoid any type of drama. But according to Jaguar, Jay-Z was just putting on a show for the public. She claims that despite the rumors, his bond with Diddy is still rock solid, and she even suggested that Jay-Z is worse than Diddy when it comes to these shady dealings.
Sean Carter is worse.
Oh, man.
He's smarter. He's patient. He's not sloppy. This lining up people he calls friends and stepping to the side while they get hit by the guillotine for 30 years.
What's more, Jaguar also claimed that Jay-Z is allegedly on the tapes found at Diddy's houses by the feds.
Because the Diddy. Oh! Diddy done turned over tapes. Allegedly, with the Carters, and some freak off. And the Beyonce. How on the cocaine? And the tapes had jizz all over it. Hold on.
Yeah, it's messed up on so many levels. But hold on, because as it turns out, the feds didn't accidentally stumble on this tea about Jay-Z allegedly passing Rihanna around, but Diddy handed the information over to them. And it's not surprising that Diddy is trying to cut a deal and shave off as much prison time as he can. If he's found guilty, he's facing a long time behind bars. And if there's one thing we know about Mr. Diddy, is that he is going to try to stay out of prison at all costs. But right now, it's not looking looking good for him because he has been denied bail not once, but twice, and he is still being held in custody until the trial starts. And according to the grapevine, this has only made him more desperate, and he is ready to offer whatever the feds want as long as he can get bail. Now, according to federal prosecutors, they're worried he will intimidate witnesses and obstruct the case if he's released on bond. Prosecutors also say Diddy's got the money and the means to be a flight risk, and the feds say he had what appeared to be in his hotel room when he was arrested. He even offered to pay a $50 million bond and home detention, but the court refused. We now have the details of the bail conditions that Diddy offered, and y'all, it's wild. According to reports, Diddy's lawyer proposed bail on these conditions: a $50 million bond, co-signed by Sean Combs, his mother, his sister, the mother of his oldest daughter, and his 3 adult sons. He also proposed that the bond would be secured by the equity in Mr. Combs' residence, located at 2 West Star Island in Miami, Florida. The appraised value of the home is about $48 million. The home is unencumbered. In anticipation of this bail hearing, on August 20th, 2024, Mr. Combs paid off the remaining mortgage of about $18 million so that the home could be used to secure a bond and be free of a mortgage. The document went on to say that the bond would be secured by the equity of Mr. Combs' mother's home, located at 450 Alton Road in Miami, Florida, and that Mr. Combs' travel will be restricted to the Southern District of Florida and the Southern District of New York to attend court, meet with his counsel, and attend medical appointments, which he will address to the court in a separate sealed submission, as well as the Eastern District of New York or the District of New Jersey, only to the extent that his travel to and from New York involves an airport in those districts. The document then revealed that Diddy had submitted his passport to the authorities in April of this year, but it didn't stop there. He also offered to submit his mom's and daughter's passports. It said the passports of the following family members who have already surrendered their passports to counsel after the raids on Mr. Combs' homes: Janice Combs, Chance Combs, Jesse Combs, Delilah Combs, and Love Combs. Y'all, even the baby. Diddy is ready to give up anything and anyone, including his BFF Jay-Z. According to an insider, Diddy allegedly handed over some fresh evidence to the feds, including how Jay-Z has allegedly been moving girls using his Rock Nation brand as a cover. He's dropping names of women like Tierra Marie, Singer Emile, and so many more. Speaking of Tierra Marie, though, there have been rumors for a while now that Jay-Z allegedly passed her around to the men in the industry, and Jay-Z clearly had a soft spot once upon a time for Tierra, even dubbing her the Princess of the Rock and showering her with the compliments.
Let's talk about some of the artists. Tierra Marie.
Yeah.
Okay, and she's the first lady of the rock.
She's the princess.
But according to a blind item, it was none other than L.A. Reid who allegedly started this tangled web by allegedly having an affair with Tierra, and he allegedly passed her to Ray J, who in turn allegedly handed her off to Jay-Z.
And was treated like a piece of meat to be bought and sold by different producers up until the time that she passed away. A couple of years after she passed away, a fairly large record producer started making some calls about a singer he had working out of his studio. She was 15 and eager, and soon different label heads were scouting her. And this is allegedly Tierra Marie. Soon, she was sold to this pseudo corn star and celebrity sibling. You can also take a guess at that one. He loves controlling vulnerable women. It is his specialty. Anyway, he started controlling the career of this singer. He brought her to the attention of this A+ list rapper and mogul, allegedly Jay-Z.
Now, reports went on to claim that Beyonce allegedly caught wind of this little affair. She wasn't having it. Word in the streets is that she demanded Jay-Z cut Tierra off completely.
And he signed her to a deal. By the time all of the ink was dry, she was just shy of being legal. But that didn't stop the mogul. He liked to sample the new talent. He was sampling her on a fairly regular basis, but he was also involved with the current A+ list singer who was in his face every day. And this could allegedly be Beyonce. The thing is, though, that corn star in charge of her career was feuding with the mogul and told the mogul he would not be allowed to hook up with the singer again. I assume he thought the mogul would think she was something special. Apparently not as special as the current A+ lister, because the new signee was dropped and the word was put out on the street. No record deals for her from any label. When someone ignored the edict, they were paid a visit. If the visits were ignored, then other steps were taken. This was a total lockdown of a career that lasted almost a decade.
But y'all, it looks like Diddy has all the dirt on Jay-Z, and given his current situation, he's feeling the squeeze so badly that he's now turning the heat on other people. Jay-Z had better start putting his affairs in order, because if the reports are true, he would be in a world of trouble. But on the other hand, there's a lot of speculation as to whether or not Rihanna is going to testify. Now, like I said, Rihanna is fiercely loyal to Jay-Z and The Rock because she owes everything to him. Her career, fame, and even her halftime Super Bowl performance last year, during which she threw up the Rock Nation sign. So there's a very high chance that she'll claim that nothing happened, that it was all above the table. However, she's not the only alleged victim. Now we have to look at every single female that Jay-Z has ever signed and wonder if they could have been victims. Fans commented, when Maya and Jay did Best of Me, he propositioned her and she felt pressure to have intimacy with him and didn't. Her career was never the same after. It seems like a pattern when working with attractive females. Foxy, Aaliyah, Maya, Emil, Free, and Blue Cantrell. We need a surviving Carter. Jay also messed with Foxy around the time their song came out, and Foxy recorded that when she was just 14 years old. Jay and Kelly were tight, and Dame had problems with that because of R. Kelly and Aaliyah. So yeah, Jay had several young girls that he messed with. Jay had Tierra Marie, Rihanna, Beyonce, possibly Aaliyah, and more. They were all girls. Emil has a story and saw things, and maybe this is the right time to come forward because of the Diddy and Cassie and people I believe aren't as afraid to speak up and speak out. Cass said 2024 was going to be the year of exposure. But yeah, with all this crazy stuff dropping every 5 seconds, I gotta know how y'all feel about this whole situation. Do you think that Rihanna is going to snitch?
I'm just going to say it. L.A. Reid is a predator. You calling 18, 19-year-old girls in your office and soliciting sexual favors? Yes, that was happening. And any label, television show, anybody that hires him, you are hiring a predator.
L.A. Reid is a scary man. He's one of the most powerful people in the music industry, and L.A. Reid has used that power to violate people. He would harass employees and end careers if he didn't get what he wanted. L.A. Reid has even ended artists' careers because their managers wouldn't sleep with him. He's a part of the problem in Hollywood, and he needs to be exposed. So let's get into it. L.A. Reid is a big-time music executive and record producer, and he also seems like a creep because he's used his status to take advantage of many people. He supposedly left his position at Epic Records because of allegations of sexual harassment. Reports claim that L.A. Reid was ousted from his job nearly 6 years in after a coworker accused him of putting his hand up her shirt at a holiday party in front of other people.
L.A. Reid, you guys have been waiting a few days to hear Joe's thoughts. So on Thursday, we found out that he abruptly left his position as CEO and chairman of Epic Records. Sony didn't say much at first. 2 days later, they issued a very, very brief statement just saying L.A. Reid will be leaving the company. Now we're finding out that there's assault allegations against him from multiple people who worked in the company.
Now, Sony learned about these allegations because one of his employees actually wrote a letter. An attorney representing one of L.A. Reid's female assistants sent a letter to Sony's legal counsel regarding the harassment that this assistant had faced for a daily basis over a year. L.A. Reid was also accused of asking his assistant while they were on a business trip to lie down in bed with him and give him a hug, which no employer should be laying in bed with their employee. That's so weird. Also, they shouldn't be commenting on their appearance. Well, in that letter, she accuses him of making comments about her clothing and her appearance, as well as propositions that caused her embarrassment and distress and made it impossible for her to continue working at that label. It looks like this employee wanted probably a settlement or was threatening legal action, so I think that this employee was probably paid off, and this letter is legit because multiple outlets have seen it. So in this situation, that assistant fought for Sony CEO to read this letter and learn who L.A. Reid really is. But not a lot of people are this lucky, and honestly, this assistant went through hell dealing with executives who were essentially telling her, you're gonna lose your job if you continue doing this or speaking on L.A. Reid.
L.A. Reid obviously, and it appears that he had a problem or an obsession with and not being able to separate from his work. It bled into even people that directly worked for him. He got fired from Epic Records because his female assistant wrote a letter that got to his boss. And when they read that, and given, of course, multiple allegations that are being hushed up and been quieted over the years, they said, damn, we got to get rid of this guy.
And he has a point, because once you leave your job, you can assume that you can get a job somewhere else. But L.A. Reid, he has this type of power to really blacklist you from entertainment, which is probably why she kept herself anonymous and probably handled this privately, because she doesn't want to miss out from other job opportunities. But Sony put out a statement saying that they are not allowing culture like this in the company, and that's part of L.A. Reid leaving the business. And it's not just assistants who are dealing with this, artists are dealing with this as well. LaToya Rodriguez, known as Toya, found some success on the charts in 2001 with her single I Do. And that's all about what we heard from her, because her career fell off quickly. As of 2022, Toya hasn't put out anything new, and some interesting information has come out on why her career stalled. Well, it wasn't Toya who was actually preyed on, it was her representation. And because her representative didn't, I guess, comply with what he wanted, Toya had to suffer. She actually claims that he R-worded her. Her name is Drew Dixon, and she was working as an executive at a record label when L.A. Reid began making moves on her and unwelcome advances. Reports claim that L.A. Reid would turn cold when Drew denied his unwanted overtures, which reportedly included invitations to late-night catch-ups at his hotel. She actually claims that when she did deny his invitations, she was worried for her artists like Toya because he was budgeting it. L.A. Reid did end up ending Toya's career, and it's all because Drew didn't give him what he wanted.
L.A. Reid is now my boss, and all of a sudden it was like, wear skirts and heels every day, Drew, to work. I started wearing jeans and Birkenstock clogs because I knew he hated those. Okay. There's even like, it's not even in the movie. I signed this artist, Toya, from St. Louis. She had this record called I Do. It was the #1 Churban record in the country.
Churban,
okay?
I heard that language a
right?
long time. Crossover
we made
urban.
An album that was dope. LA loved it. And he kept saying, come to my hotel after you finish in the studio and listen to the album. And I was already knowing what that was. So I would just always like pretend I didn't get his message or be like, let me hit you back. And they just like wouldn't. And there was like a meeting one day at Arista where all the promotion people were psyched to talk about Toya because I Do was testing so well nationally and how we were gonna break her. And then L.A. Reid literally looks down the table at me. He's like, everybody take out your pens, draw a line through Toya. I listened to her album last night in my hotel room. And he like looked at me and I hated it.
Honestly, kudos to Drew for standing true for herself and standing up for herself, but it sucks that artists like Toya, who had so much potential, had to suffer as well. And I think it's important that she keeps mentioning Toya and the fact that her album never made it because L.A. Reid killed it because she did not want to go to his hotel room, which probably a great choice. She wrote on Twitter, I'm calling L.A. Reid a predator because he pressured me to become intimate with him when I was VP of another label. When I refused, he wouldn't let me sign Kanye West or John Legend. He buried the album that I executive produced on with an artist named Toya. She was quoted saying that his mentality was that he has the power. If you want access, then you have to sleep with him, or I'll be really mean to you the next day and there will be consequences. What's terrible about this industry is that it happens so often. Drew also has a story about Russell Simmons, who we've spoken about before. At 24, she just landed her dream job at Def Jam Records when he started harassing her, and he would constantly show his erect you-know-what to her without her wanting it. At a restaurant, he allegedly pushed her into a closet and attempted to kiss her. And at one staff meeting, he even asked her to come and sit on his lap. Ugh. She said that she was too scared to confront him because he was so powerful. She actually told one of her male coworkers that if she ever buzzes him and doesn't pick up, then don't call her back. Just come and open the door, because that means Russell's in there and he's whipping out his private parts. So she even made a code with the other employees to try to protect herself from when these men would prey on her. Other people have spoken out about L.A. Reid because it's hard to ignore this behavior. Joe Budden shared that L.A. Reid liked to call 18-year-olds into his office and ask for intimate favors. He says that this speaks to the issue of powerful men and how they're able to come and go as they please. And I'm glad he is speaking out against this, because we rarely hear other men, in the industry calling out this behavior and talking about how gross it is. I mean, imagine being in an office space and seeing young 18-year-olds going to his office and just knowing what's going on in there.
I'm just going to say it. L.A. Reid is a predator. These rumors were circulating at Def Jam. There was an assistant, multiple assistants at Def Jam that said L.A. Reid liked to call underage girls in his office.
Underage?
Well, 18.
Okay.
I mean, that's of age. That's legal. So, but you calling 18, 19-year-old girls in your office and soliciting sexual favors? Yes, that was happening. That was happening. I don't think this is a secret to people in the music business.
He's absolutely right. It's definitely not a secret in the music business. And we've seen, I just made a video about Russell Brand, and he had so many managers and people working at networks who protected him and his bad behavior. So why is this so common, and how do people like L.A. Reid continue to succeed?
Joe, L.A. is going to be L.A. This is L.A. Reid. I think this is who he is. And any label, television show, anybody that hires him, you are hiring a predator, and you should do your due diligence. What camera's on? This one? Do your due diligence to check it.
L.A. Reid has been pretty lucky as far as being exposed. I haven't seen a large campaign against him. And that one employee, she settled with Sony. So I wonder how many private settlements are really there.
I would like somebody to have to answer for his behavior at Epic, Sony. You can't just put this out. You can't just, because these companies, they just want to rid themselves of liability.
It said that they did launch an investigation, so maybe there's more coming. We haven't heard about that.
L.A. Reid, I'm sure there's a Bill Cosby list somewhere.
And also, I think they're trying to be real careful with it because they know a lawsuit's coming.
As I just mentioned, there are cases where he can settle, pay off these people, and they essentially are silent. It's part of the agreement. L.A. Reid and a previous employer quietly settled a handful of sexual harassment complaints brought by female employees for over a more than 5-year stretch. After each of the prior complaints and its negotiated resolution, L.A. Reid promised to straighten up his act, but he never did. So he would get in trouble with Sony, they would go and pay off these people, and then he would agree to act better next time, but then he never changed.
L.A. Reid spends a lot of money. He spends a lot of money. Now, the problem with that is that when you're paying for some that you shouldn't be paying for with company dollars. Now, there's a guy from Arista Records, used to work at Arista in 2001. He was having some type of celebratory party for his coworker, and they had it at a hotel, probably a banquet hall, within the hotel. And they go there, and apparently the coworker says, L.A. Reid comes up to him and say, yo, Playboy, take this key card and go upstairs. I got a present waiting for you in a hotel room. So he goes upstairs, and it's a thotty. L.A. Reid allegedly paid for an escort that this person could have with.
So not only is he, doing what he wants when he wants to do it, but he's also hiring people to do these things with employees, which is just so incredibly unprofessional. TLC also has a story with LA Reid because the former manager, who goes by Pebbles, claims that one of the members of the group were having an affair with her husband, who's LA Reid. So one of the members of the group is named Chili. Her nickname is Chili, and she was supposedly hooking up with Pebbles' husband. Pebbles admits that she never actually caught the two in the act, but she told Wendy Williams that she absolutely believed that they were sleeping together behind her back. Quote, I suspected a couple of things, but I didn't want to believe them at that time. For years, I didn't want to believe that because they were like daughters to me. Some people try to put this on Chili, but it's really not her fault. She was young, her career depended on this man, and yeah, probably didn't feel good hooking up with her manager's husband, but I have no doubt in my mind that he probably went on to her because look at his pattern.
She said she made a very particular statement that Chili slept with LA
Ask
Reid.
me if I believe that.
Do you believe that Chili slept with LA Reid?
Absolutely. I didn't believe it then because I didn't want to believe it. I loved my husband fiercely, and I loved them fiercely. They were like daughters to me. Bottom line, I don't have a reason to lie about that. I didn't believe it and wouldn't for years. But I have my reasons to say absolutely.
What reasons do you have?
I cannot tell you some of them.
Tell me one.
I just know it. It happened.
Again, I don't think it's Chili's fault, but another story involving Pebbles also involves Paula Abdul, because I guess that LA Reid and Paula had a relationship. I don't think it was intimate, but Pebbles was suspicious because, I mean, look at who she's married to. And at one point, they were hanging out, Paula and LA Reid, in his apartment, and they were on the balcony, and he heard a knock at the door, and there was also a phone call from Pebbles. So as soon as he opened the door and saw her, he decided to smash all of the glass furniture inside of his home so that he could distract her from the fact that Paula was there and they were hanging out together. It's really weird. He says it was like slow motion, tearing crap up. I smiled and I loved it. She never looked at Paula, who was trembling in fear. Reportedly, Pebbles was a jealous wife, and it kind of makes sense to me because her husband was a cheating man. I guess at one point he had to convince Pebbles to stop being jealous of Whitney Houston because Whitney, is a big star. She's intimidating. And LA Reid was very close to her, but he admitted that he had to tell Pebbles not to worry about it in his book. I'm not entirely sure why he would really include this besides to make Pebbles look bad and to use Whitney's name. But yeah, I don't think that he had a super intimate relationship with her. He would just bring her up to the hotel room and hang out with them, and his wife Pebbles would end up showing up in a fit of rage. And the last thing I want to reiterate is that this is a problem in Hollywood. There are so many creeps. We talked about Puff Diddy, P Diddy and his flavor camp. Well, LA Reid actually sent Usher to that flavor camp. So he's the reason why Usher was put in that situation where, P Diddy did things to him. If you haven't seen that video, definitely go and check it out. But yeah, LA Reid is a big part of the problem, and we need to start at the top if we're going to tear down this mess. But I want to hear.
Coffee. Follow me